Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. It's 7 o'clock. It is Thursday, the 5th of February, and it is, ladies and gentlemen, a momentous day in the history of Great Britain because it is the beginning, at least, of the end of Keir Starmer. Lots of people are saying he could resign by the end of today. I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but he has certainly got the skids under him. Angela Rayner is out to get him. She's on the warpath. She's already forced him into a climb down on what he had to do and what he said he was going to do yesterday in the House of Commons vis-a-vis the inquiry into what happened with Peter Mandelson. The whole thing is an absolute car crash, a car wreck even. Keir Starmer yesterday, I don't think I've ever seen him looking more rattled. I've never seen him looking more unsure of himself. I've never seen him looking more nervous. And he knows it's all over. Even The Guardian this morning is reporting it, that it's the beginning of the end and it's all over for Starmer. So thanks very much indeed for being Prime Minister for a very short period of time. You managed a bit longer than Liz Truss, but good riddance, quite frankly, to bad rubbish. Elliot Keck is here for the Taxpayers Alliance. Very good morning to you, Elliot.
Morning, Mike.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We're going to go through the papers, but before we do anything else, right? Last night, after a pretty momentous day in Parliament, a pretty momentous Prime Minister's questions, and an incredible set of developments over the course of several hours, and a really good performance by Kemi Badenoch, I recorded a little video for our Substack audience, and we put it out last night for those people who are subscribers to our Substack. And Pooch was so impressed with it, he wanted to play a bit of it out today. Now, I must warn you, because it was done for a sort of evening audience, there are one or two swear words in it. So if you're listening with the kids on the way to school, or if you've got the kids with you in the kitchen having some breakfast, you might want to cover their ears. But this is what I had to say. Morgan McSweeney's a dead man as well. He's out. Forget about what Starmer said today. I stand by him because he helped me get elected, and he's a very key part of our leadership team. The problem with Starmer, right, is that he doesn't get it. He thinks that if he says Morgan McSweeney's an important part of my leadership team and he's a guy that got me elected, that people give a shit. People don't give a shit. Matey, Starmer, wake up and smell the coffee. Because what's happening now is that you are being defenestrated minute by minute, hour by hour, by the system. The system that you thought was on your side is now about to destroy you and eat you and fuck you up. I'm sorry for swearing, but that is the only way to say it. Yeah, I'm afraid that's true. I'm not going to repeat that, but I don't think there's a better way to describe what's happening to Keir Starmer. And Elliot, the papers this morning absolutely chock full of those kinds of headlines. Starmer in grave peril as Rayner twists the knife on the front page of the Daily Mail. Starmer fights for future over Mandelson scandal in the Times. The beginning of the end for Starmer in the Financial Times. Revolting staff at Labour turn on Keir Starmer. Starmer finally admits it, the National. It's all over for Starmer. That's the Guardian. Yeah. I mean, it really is all over for Starmer, isn't it?
I think there's a stench of death around this government, isn't there?
Yeah.
And it really reminds me back of those days of 2022 and 2023, particular, you know, the Boris government, and you could just tell that, you know, he wasn't going to last for long.
Yeah.
And, you know, Starmer's got a few things he can try. He can try sacking McSweeney. He can maybe try a little reshuffle, another reset. Right. But I think we're talking about weeks, if not days.
Right. Well, he did utter the immortal words, didn't he, when he was asked yesterday by Kemi Badenoch about
he has full confidence.
Whether he still had confidence in Morgan McSweeney, and he said yes.
Yeah.
You just go,
which
no.
He's done that a few times before, because of course he said he had full confidence in Peter Mandelson before he sacked him the following day.
Right.
And you can see in the House of Commons, all of his confidence had gone. He looked timid. He looked weak. His hands were shaking.
Yeah.
He looked like he was about to burst into tears. A bit like his Chancellor of the Exchequer has done before.
And she didn't look great either.
No, she did not look great.
She looked under an awful lot of pressure because she knows, presumably, if he goes, it's the end for her as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're inextricably tied up together. It's a Starmer and Reeves project. And yeah, listen, I think he'll cling on for a little bit longer, but it's not going to be for long. You could see yesterday his MPs had turned against him. Yeah, they were listening to every single word that Kemi Badenoch said, every single question. You could see some of them nodding along, almost willing her on. Yeah, and Starmer would stand up, and it would be a stony silence
just
behind
hopeless,
him.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
It took him 3 goes.
It was desperate, actually.
3 goes before he admitted that he actually did know.
Yeah, it was really desperate.
Peter Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein had continued longer and for a much bigger period of time than they had previously been made aware of. There's a great picture actually in the Sun, if you just hand it to me for a second, which is all of the sort of what I would call the guilty men and women on the front benches of and of course Andrew Braden now not one of them, but this picture here.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at the faces.
I know, it's
Wes
incredible.
Streeting, Peter Kyle, Yvette Cooper, what's the face?
Rachel Reeves. Well, and they all know they've done the damage they've done to this country over the last couple of years, and they're now all coming to the realisation that they're not going to get a chance to clean it up.
No.
Because whoever's going to come in next is going to want a completely clean slate. They're going to want I'd imagine they're going to want a clean front bench. They're going to want new faces because the public are absolutely sick and tired of this.
Exactly, and they're also going to have to make a new start to say, look, this was wrong, this was wrong, we're going to fix that.
We screwed it up.
We screwed it up, we're going to make some more U-turns. Let's actually have a look, because the first clip I want to play you today is Kemi Badenoch. When she asked and got the answer that she finally wanted from Keir Starmer about the vetting process which took place in order for Peter Mandelson to be given the job of ambassador to the United States of America.
The Prime Minister cannot blame the process. He did know it was on Google. If the Conservative Research Department could find this information out, why couldn't Number 10? On the 10th of September, when we knew this, I asked him at that dispatch box, he gave Mandelson his full confidence at that dispatch box, not once, but twice. He only sacked him after pressure from us. I am asking the Prime Minister something very specific, not about the generalities of the full extent. Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Prime Minister.
Yes, it did. As a result, various questions were put to him. I intend to disclose to this House all of the national security, prejudice to international relations on one side. I want to make sure this House sees the full documentation, so it will see for itself the extent to which time and time again Mandelson completely misrepresented the extent of his relationship with Epstein and lied throughout the process, including in response to the due diligence.
I mean, it's hard to believe that Keir Starmer was ever in charge of anything, isn't it? That he was actually there making the most ridiculous claims. For example, Peter Mandelson lied to us. Yes, we found out that his relationship with Epstein went on for longer than he said it did. But then when we asked him questions about it, he just continually lied. Yeah. And you think, well, is that the vetting process? So I just say to you, Elliot Keck, have you ever been convicted of any crime? No. All right, fine. Well, you can get the job then.
I think Starmer just believes that he's so brilliant. Yeah. He's so above any moral questions or any ethical questions. He is so, spotless himself. That the idea that he should be questioned or interrogated about these issues, the idea that he's not above reproach, he finds it so difficult to process. Right. He really has this image of himself that no one else in the country shares. No. Not a single other person in the country shares.
As I watched it yesterday afternoon, you could see that he was getting really irritable and frustrated at the fact that people were sort of making noises, groaning, interrupting, heckling, you know, as if he shouldn't be heckled. Yeah. As if he should be just believed for everything that he wants to say.
Because he's so brilliant. He's Mr. Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Human Rights. Right. And it's just, he's obviously never looked in the mirror. No.
And also, somebody pointed out yesterday, after the Prime Minister's questions was finished, that actually Kemi Badenoch came across as a better lawyer than him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she's not even a lawyer.
She was incisive,
But she's not a lawyer.
No, she's not.
And he's meant to be the lawyer. Yeah. And the fact that, I just find it extraordinary and incredible that they could go through this process of appointing a man who was clearly controversial from the beginning, even if you didn't know anything about the Epstein connection, just from what went before.
Yeah, been sacked however many times.
Been sacked before for misappropriation of money, doing favours for multi-millionaire businessmen in order to get them a passport, borrowing money and not declaring it to buy a massively expensive house in Notting Hill. Even if that was all that there was, he must have known it was a controversial appointment. And yet they just sort of went through the motions and said, have you ever done anything wrong? No. Great. Yeah. Okay then. I mean, is that vetting?
it is worth repeating. I mean, Starmer won't have known about all of this, but it is worth repeating that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom appointed as the ambassador to the United States, not just a man who was best mates with a convicted nonce, convicted paedophile, someone that gave highly secret, highly confidential, financially sensitive information to that convicted paedophile.
Yes.
During one of the most sensitive periods of British government. And he was appointed as US ambassador.
Yes. And at the moment, that's the beginning, because who knows who else he was giving information to.
I know.
Because if he was giving information for personal gain or for financial gain, then I would be pretty damn sure that I could bet my bottom dollar and even his bottom dollar that there are other people that he was giving information to.
Yeah, we need the Mandelson files, not the Epstein files.
We really do.
That's what we really need.
Do. And we've got a poll out at the moment where we're suggesting places where you might want to sort of exile Peter Mandelson too. And I'm not sure if it's up yet. We'll have to try and find out from Charlotte. But as far as we know at the moment, where are we? I'm on the wrong phone. Hang on. Let me do this. The various destinations where we might want to send banish Peter Mandelson to. Number 1, St Helena. Number 2, Gaza. Number 3, Rwanda. And number 4, the Chagos Islands. Interesting choices there.
But you can say all that taxpayer-funded accommodation in Rwanda that we set up.
Absolutely right. And of course, the other thing that we now have to look into is what else has this government made a complete and utter rick of? You know, because if it looks as if these are the final days of Keir Starmer, I think what we do is we lift up the bonnet and we go, right, what else have you been up to?
Yeah.
And who else have you been talking to?
Yeah, that's
and
right.
what other decisions have been arrived at which have not been properly vetted, which have not been, let's investigate Lord Hermer, for example.
Yeah,
He's in the papers
absolutely.
this morning. I know it's away from the Mandelson scandal, but a great story in the Telegraph suggesting that it was Lord Hermer who sped up the charges against Lucy Connolly and who took a very personal interest. And of course, Starmer maintained that it was nothing to do with him. But Lord Hermer, as I've said all along, clearly was in the driving seat of the prosecution of Lucy Connolly and in the ensuring of the fact that she went to jail.
Yeah, and question marks over the Chagos deal, right? I mean, Lord Herman and Keir Starmer, the sort of architects of the Chagos deal. Something is going on there. We have no idea why. The government has never given a real explanation as to why it's surrendering sovereignty over British territory and giving away money as part of the process. So that's a whole other thing that we really need to get under the bonnet of. Exactly why are they doing that? What interests do they have? It's certainly not British national interest. And you're right. I mean, Lord Hermer's speeding up the prosecution of Lucy Connolly over some, everyone has said it many, many times, very ill judged, pretty toxic social media post, but social media post she deleted within, I think it was a minute, or hours.
Certainly within 3 hours,
Yeah, very, very quickly. And she ended up going to prison for, I think, how long was it she was in prison for?
I think it was 36 months
something
or
like that. Yeah. It was, I think she was released after a year and a half.
It was very well out of all proportion, particularly when you see stories like the one...
She was denied visits.
Yes, she didn't. She wasn't allowed to see her family.
Yeah.
She wasn't allowed home, which most prisoners are allowed to be to do during any period of time, particularly for a crime which is non-violent.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, seriously.
And when you see the way the justice system works, I think it was last week, wasn't it, where an asylum seeker stroke illegal migrant was not sent to jail despite sexually assaulting a child. And was given a suspended sentence.
Hugh Edwards.
Come on. And Hugh Edwards, who's still languishing around on his BBC pension. Thanks very much indeed, in a very nice part of South London called Dulwich.
Extraordinary.
But have a look at how grubby and greasy and ghastly this whole story is. In The Sun, a big spread on pages 6 and 7, Lord Peter Mandelson joked with Jeffrey Epstein about a well-hung young man, according to released files. As voters took to the polls during the 2010 general election, the US paedophile financier asked how his day was going. Mandelson responded, and this is a quote, "We are praying for a hung parliament. Alternatively, a well-hung young man."
Yeah, it's just...
I mean, really?
I didn't have breakfast this morning, thankfully.
I'm sorry. I was going to eat an almond croissant before, but I don't think I've got the stomach for it now. But it's just so disgusting and so disgraceful. And as I say, the Labour government now is completely and utterly without any mandate whatsoever to run anything. I know, and that's why, notwithstanding the swearing last night, I just said, nobody cares about Keir Starmer's well-being. Nobody gives a toss, quite frankly, whether or not he's unhappy. We just want him gone. Just want him out the door. So I want you to stand on the steps of Downing Street and put out the lectern and just say...
And disappear.
I'm terribly sorry that this mess has been caused by me and I'm wishing to apologise for it, for bringing shame on the nation of Great Britain. And basically, I'm now going to resign my job as Prime Minister. And thanks very much indeed. And I'm going to disappear to the backbenches. That's what everybody wants.
He really, I don't think it's exaggeration to say he's debased the dignity of the office.
No.
When you look at how supine he was in China, when you look at the Chagos deal, when you look at the Mandelson stuff, I think he's brought, as you said, great shame to the office of Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And I mean, some of the things he was saying yesterday, talking about he's not going to sack Morgan McSweeney because Morgan McSweeney was such an important part of getting him elected. Well, that's part of the problem. That's one of the reasons why Morgan McSweeney should be sacked.
For him to get up and say, well, I'm not going to get rid of him because he helped me get elected.
Yeah.
Well, that's a criminal. That's a criminal charge.
Yeah, lock him up, throw away the key.
This one from the Chaos Umbra. The problem is that if Starmer goes, the rest of the Labour Party think that the problem was that they were not left wing enough.
I think that's a fair point.
Well, that is an interesting point as well, isn't it? Because there are plenty of people inside the party who don't think they're left-wing enough. But we shall see. I don't think it's time yet for Angela Rayner, though, to come in, is it?
I don't think it's ever time for Angela Rayner to come into anything, is it?
I mean, this is a woman who can't understand basic tax code.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't know how much council tax to pay. She doesn't know where to pay the council tax. She doesn't know which is her prime residence. She doesn't know about stamp duty. She's not sure whether she can own more than one house at the same time. I mean, it's all a bit confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, either that and she didn't know, or she did know, in which case she deliberately dodged tax, right? It's one or the other.
I mean, I think you're probably getting closer to the truth there. I think I was trying to be sort of slightly sarcastic, but that she can't understand the tax code.
Yeah, this is Starmer's saving grace, though, isn't it? Right, that the one thing that might keep him in there a little longer is none of them are quite ready to go for him yet. Rayner still has issues over her tax affairs. Apparently, they're not settled yet.
No.
Burnham hasn't managed to get into Parliament.
Also,
Streeting has associations with Mandelson. None of them are quite ready to go for him yet.
No, there isn't anyone really qualified. I mean, that's been their big problem. There isn't anyone qualified to be in government, never mind to run it. I mean, that's the point. I mean, look at that front bench. Peter Kyle, self-confessed dyslexic, who says that he was bullied at school. Yvette Cooper, completely and utterly useless as Foreign Secretary, completely and utterly useless as Home Secretary, completely and utterly useless in any kind of decisive situation.
I think Ed Balls likes her.
She married Ed Balls, for heaven's sake. I mean, that shows you a lack of judgment. And who's that there? Is that Lucy Kendall? Or
Liz Kendall.
Liz Kendall, sorry.
Completely useless
I don't even
as
know
working
what she
pensions.
does. What does she do?
She botched the welfare bill, didn't she?
That's right,
That was, the attempt to bring down the welfare bill from 100 billion to 95 billion, and it was completely botched.
I mean, you've worked in and around Westminster for a very long time. You must be, like me, astonished at how bad they actually are at governing.
The quality of MPs, and particularly Labour MPs, is quite extraordinary. I did a couple of tweets recently about one Labour MP in particular who's campaigning to get the meal deal back down to £3.50. And you've got your head in your hands and you think you're not serious people. We have critical issues in welfare, migration, the economy, tax. You think of the smorgasbord of issues, of crises that this country is facing and that are getting worse every single day. And you're deciding to write to Sainsbury's about the fact that their meal deal is £3.60, not £3.50. It's really embarrassing stuff.
And Keir Starmer, of course, with his social media accounts, is always putting out the most nebulous, useless, pointless tweets in the midst of all of the kind of scandal that he's embroiled in. I mean, he put out a tweet yesterday morning before Prime Minister's questions, where he said, "I lost my brother to cancer. I was with him when he was told his diagnosis, a moment I will never forget. Throughout, the NHS respected and cared for him. When he passed away, it hit me like a bus, even though I knew it was coming." And you kind of go, you're literally teetering on the brink of losing your job, and you're putting out a tweet about your brother dying from cancer. What is the point of that exactly? Yeah, well,
I mean, they had this plan to announce all of these different little tweaks to the way that cancer care would be provided. So providing funding so that people wouldn't have to pay for taxis to and from the hospital if they were taking people for cancer treatment. All well and good, but you could tell that when they were talking about it on broadcast yesterday, their heart wasn't in it. No. They knew that this was going to be one of the last things they were going to announce probably. Yeah. They knew that fine, it might be a nice tweak, it might people might support it. It's not going to change the country.
No,
it's not the big radical change that this country needs, and that they had a 170 seat majority.
Yes.
That they could use to do that.
Yeah.
They're making tiny little tweaks, little adjustments to the cost of taking your pet to the vet.
Yeah.
And
if I hear the phrase breakfast club anymore, I'm going to start shooting people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's unbelievable. Lord Viking, we must celebrate like it's 1999 if Starmer is out. Well, he's definitely on his way out. I don't think there's any question about that. But again, last night they had a party political broadcast going out, and it was all about sort of cancer. And then they put out a tweet. Starmer puts out this tweet saying the thoughts and sincere condolences of the entire Labour Party are with the family and loved ones of the incredible Nathaniel Dye, MBE, who was obviously the subject of the party broadcast. He sadly passed away after filming his contribution. Again, you know, kind of tone deaf.
Yeah.
You know, it's better if you don't put anything out in the midst of a massive crisis like this. You know,
it may be a resignation statement.
It just draws attention to the fact that you are kind of tone deaf, that you have no clue about just interacting with human beings, with the ordinary people of this country who are sick to death, sick to the back teeth of this useless, hopeless, rancid government, you know, who are all in it for themselves and who, quite frankly, could not organise a piss up in a brewery. Sorry for swearing. I know it's only 7:20, but, you know, I can't help it.
Yeah, it's a bit like a husband saying to his wife that he cheated on her, but at least he cleaned the bathroom. You're kind of missing the point here.
Exactly right. Let's have another look at another one of the clips from yesterday's Prime Minister's questions. This is Keir Starmer proving, as if you didn't need it to be proven, that he is completely and utterly hopeless at everything.
But can I reassure the House, Mr. Speaker? Let me reassure the House. The process for deciding what falls into those categories will not be a political process. It will be led by the Cabinet Secretary, supported by government legal teams.
I mean, the process. He talks about the process. And I mean, he made a big deal, didn't he, yesterday, of the fact that, he wanted to control the number of things that could be investigated or the number of files that could be released. And this is where the Angela Rayner story comes in, because it was Angela Rayner who took up sort of the cudgel against him and said, no, you cannot control what it is that people see. It has to be given to a separate and independent committee, which means that, you know, he can no longer say, because one of the things he was arguing was, anything that might be of international interest or have an international connection may not be released. And Kemi Badenoch pointed out, well, the whole story is about international connections, because this is about an international job given to a man who was going to be the chief diplomat of the Foreign Service.
It was extraordinary, wasn't it, that initially the government at number 10's position was basically a cover-up. To essentially announce to the House of Commons, we're going to engineer a cover-up.
We're going to engineer a cover-up,
And when she suggested that maybe the Cabinet Secretary, Chris Wormold, who was the person that was going to be appointed to review the release of documents, when Kemi Badenoch suggested that he might not be an appropriate person to do that, given he literally worked for the Prime Minister, he's part of the Prime Minister's team. Starmer had this sort of, I think it was authentic outrage at the fact that anyone would question the credibility and integrity of the holy, his holy father, the righteous Cabinet Secretary, Sir Chris Wormold. The idea that anybody would suggest that, clearly one of Keir Starmer's mates, given he was appointed by Starmer, despite everyone else saying that he was useless, the man that was in charge of the Department of Health and Social Care during the pandemic, let's remember. The idea that he may not be the appropriate person to review the release of documents that could bring down the Prime Minister. He was horrified by it, and it seemed to be authentic outrage. But Rayner stepped in, and fair play to her, she does have the occasional good political instinct in her body. You do have to give her that.
I think the one thing that Angela Rayner does have is that she's in touch with ordinary people.
Yeah, she does recognise it to some extent.
She sort of gets that,
She understands how much they don't like paying stamp duty in particular.
Yeah, she does understand
that.
She
really gets that.
Maybe she could get in and do away with stamp duty.
Yeah, well, that would be brilliant. She'd have the support of Kemi Badenoch.
She certainly would. Absolutely right. Well, maybe we should get behind Angela Rayner if that's what she's going to do. I can't imagine a worse Prime Minister than Keir Starmer, though, no matter in any measure, because he has been so completely and utterly useless. I can't think of any one thing. The thing that I find astonishing is that occasionally you talk to, kind of left-leaning pundits, and they say, oh, well, he's been very good on the international stage. And he really hasn't. I mean, he's just been a patsy. Donald Trump treats him like his little kind of, a page boy who occasionally kind of, gives a biscuit to, and then most of the time just completely ignores and calls him, stupid for doing the Shageless Islands deal. He went to China and was the patsy for President Xi. Really embarrassing. He went to Japan, and nobody knows why he went to Japan. No. I think he just went and got on the wrong plane.
Yeah, maybe.
He was supposed to be coming back to Heathrow and ended up in Tokyo. And this sort of ridiculous coalition of the willing
Yeah.
that he's put together, which I rather unfortunately named the coalition of the willies, because it's him and you know the tiny dwarf Zelensky and the tiny dwarf Macron, and I think he likes hanging out with them because they're even smaller than he is. You know, that's about the only thing that's good about it. But I literally can't think of one thing that he's done that has improved the lot of Great Britain.
Yeah, it's not clear to me. I mean, I scratched my head trying to think of it, and I mean, listen, clearly he was quite chummy with Trump early on. It seems that the only thing that he's achieved with that, though, is to use all of that, you know, relationship building to get the United States to back the Chagos deal, a deal which will cost British taxpayers 40-50 billion pounds, right?
Minimum, yeah.
So that is what being good on the international stage has generated. If he was less good on the international stage, then the Americans may have actually blocked the Chagos deal.
Yeah.
So actually, probably Starmer being successful on the international stage has been the downfall of Britain, at least when it comes to the Chagos deal. So I'd like him to be less effective on the on the international stage, because I'd like for foreign countries, in particular the United States, to give him a bit more of a kicking and block some of his mad projects.
Absolutely
a little bit more.
right.
So
but when you get a large bulk of the population of one country wishing that they had the leader of another country running them, like we do now here, wishing that Donald Trump was actually running Britain,
or any other leader, to be fair. I mean,
bloody idiot, you know. Let's have another look at another clip, because one of the reasons why Peter Mandelson was able to kind of keep returning to government and keep getting his job back and keep sort of becoming a massive influence on several governments is because he was sort of widely regarded as a clever man, you know, and there's always a thing that the British media seems to specialise in this, you know, and Andrew Marr, we're going to show you a clip of him in a moment on LBC, formerly of the BBC, of course, who absolutely illustrates what is wrong with the media in this country. You know, they sort of fall in love with, you know, charismatic characters. Yeah. And, you know, there's one thing that charismatic characters have in common, and that is they can be politicians, they can be serial killers, they can be, you know, members of high-flying pop groups. They can be what? Cults, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I thought you said somebody else there for a minute, Coach. Yeah, there's definitely a load of cults. But let's have a look at Andrew Marr. This is what he had to say for himself yesterday.
This is going to sound perhaps like a confession, even an embarrassing one. But here goes. I have always liked Keir Starmer. Worse, I think he is a fundamentally decent man in politics for the right reasons. So I say the following with genuine sadness. But I think we have entered the final stage of the Starmer premiership. I don't know exactly how or when the end will come. Often these things are a surprise, and there are circumstances, if nobody moves, if everybody waits back, in which he could carry on, unhappily enough, at least until the summer. But listening to furious, disillusioned Labour MPs and reflecting on his frankly unconvincing performance earlier this afternoon on the Mandelson affair, it feels as if we have reached a tipping point. Too many misjudgments, too much authority lost, too little direction. I really see no way back.
I mean, that just sums up to me, as I said, what's wrong with the British media. Andrew Marr, who gives a toss what he thinks, right? Yeah. He's making out like, you know, the fact that I like Keir Starmer is an important, you know, political statement to make. And that the fact that I, the great Andrew Marr, think that it's now the end for him should be taken terribly seriously by everybody else. Yeah. Bugger off.
Yeah, they were all so starstruck, weren't they, by the New Labour movement? Yeah. And now the fact that the architect of the New Labour movement is having his reputation.
Well, Andrew Marr famously went on, I think, Question Time, didn't he, straight after the election, to say, thank God that we'll now have proper, serious,
sensible adult government.
Sensible adult government. Yeah. And now look where we are. Yeah. I mean, you know, it never ceases to amaze me how uselessly they predict events, these kind of people. Adam Bolton, you know, the news agents, as they're known, and people like Andrew Marr. It's 7:28, by the way. I've been asked to do a time check. Also, I can point out to you that we have a poll out there, which is where should we banish Peter Mandelson to? And the choices are these: Gaza, Rwanda, Chagos, and St. Helena, right? Unfortunately, though, St. Helena has been misspelt, and it comes up as St. Helens instead, which is obviously nowhere near where St. Helena is, and it's up a town in the north of England. with a rather good rugby league club, as far as I remember. So Charlotte has played a blinder once again. So, so St Helens, funnily enough, is not winning. It's actually the least important place to send him at the moment. Chagos Islands 18%, Rwanda 23%, but coming in up front for Peter Mandelson to be banished to is Gaza. 52% of people think he should be sent there. Poor Palestinians. Imagine, Peter Mandelson arrive on the scene as if they haven't suffered enough. You know, he'd obviously have to have one of the biggest houses on the seafront, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would.
He'd have to have one of those bits of Gaza that haven't been bombed to bits by the Israelis. Also, let's talk about a couple of other stories that are kind of around and about this morning. One on the front page of the Telegraph, which is about Lord Hermer and Lucy Connolly, which is really interesting because I think on another day, it would probably be the main story on the front pages of an awful lot of the papers, because what it tells me and tells us is that, you know, all of the things that we suspected, and again this comes back to Starmer about the politicisation of prosecutions after the Southport riots. It was a thing, you know, and of course Starmer denied that he was involved in it in any way. But the fact that Lord Hermer has now been shown to have actually sped up the process of the charges, sped up the process of the Lucy Connolly prosecution, tells you everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you know, since then we have seen serious violent criminals be let off with far more lenient sentences.
Yes.
You know, some of them people with no right to even be here, and you know, it does really strike at the heart of the justice system and the British people's confidence in it. As you mentioned, there's this other story about Palestine Action and the fact that, you know, they've all been let off despite video, like unequivocal video evidence that we can all see of a female police officer's spine being fractured with a sledgehammer. Right. And yet a jury has acquitted them.
And these are the people who attacked, did they not?
Elbit Systems.
An Israeli company, right?
Yeah, based with a headquarters in the United Kingdom, or a factory in the United Kingdom. And they broke into it, and police officers arrived, and a female police officer had her spine fractured by a sledgehammer. Yeah. And they've been let off. And there's very serious questions about whether or not the jury was influenced by external pressure, external protests, or of course whether people on the jury themselves were radicalised. And, you know, at a time when jury trials are under threat, you know, David Lammy is launching an extraordinary assault on one of the most precious institutions of British life and British society, the right to a trial by jury. But then when you see cases like this, it reminds you that, you know, jury trials are not perfect. No. They need to be guarded and managed properly and carefully, because any situation like this, where with evidence like that, and with you know if your viewers haven't seen the evidence, it is completely unambiguous.
Well, I mean, the newspapers this morning, The Sun in particular, on page 16, have got a picture of one of the protesters with the sledgehammer.
Exactly. Yeah. I
mean,
it's
actually wielding a sledgehammer.
They were arrested at the scene.
There are video. There is video evidence, right?
And they were arrested at the scene.
The CPS is yet to decide if they will be retried. It says anti-Semitism campaigners claim pressure was put on the jury after posters mentioning acquitting someone on moral grounds were put up at bus stops in Woolwich, southeast London. Absolutely extraordinary. And on the Lord Hermer Lucy Connolly front, it says in the Telegraph that the case was treated as prosecution, and she was also advised by her brief to plead guilty so that she would get a lesser sentence. And of course, she went ahead with that advice, took the advice, pleaded guilty, and then got hammered for it.
Yeah, we have an otherwise law-abiding mother who was sent to prison for some ill-advised social media posts. Yeah. Whereas on the other hand,
were deleted.
We have a, you know, however old she is, 19, 20, 21-year-old, know nothing, do nothing, extremist activist who is walked free despite
and who,
fracturing the spine of a female police officer.
And who you can probably...
And it's all because of their political differences.
And who you can probably quite well expect to take part in further acts of violence and further kind of, you know, demonstrations and protests which are likely to be in breach of the law.
Yeah, and the CPS needs to take action here. This person needs to be in jail and should be in jail for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely right. Here's what Chris Philp has to say, the Shadow Home Secretary, about the Lucy Connolly case. This clearly shows the government wanted to make an example of Lucy Connolly. She was scapegoated by the government, and it appears to me that had she pleaded not guilty, she would have had a good chance of being acquitted. 31 months in prison for an offensive social media post is grossly disproportionate, and he makes the point that I just did. An immigrant who sexually assaulted a 12-year-old recently got off with no prison at all. So it's very clear that there's
Yeah.
something completely and utterly wrong with our justice system. And Lord Hermer, another Starmer appointment, is at the heart of it because he's his mate.
Yeah.
He's also at the heart of the Chagos Islands giveaway, and he's
Absolutely.
also at the heart of everything bad about this country's foreign policy.
Yeah, and listen, hopefully the next government will commute that sentence of Lucy Connolly, hopefully issue a formal apology from the government, and hopefully sort out this issue with jury trials in the justice system. But yeah, I mean, listen, Lord Hermer is, I mean, he may be the worst of a very, very bad bunch, but the whole lot are rotten.
Yeah, they really are, and it'd be really great to see them all go. The sooner the better, as far as I can see. A couple of other things just to mention to you. A piece on page 3 of the Daily Mail, and you're not probably old enough to worry about this, but it says ties are like Spanx for men. Right? Apparently, it says that they take years off you. So older men should wear ties because it makes them look more streamlined, it makes them look better, makes them look more handsome, and it says basically. It streamlines bulges into tautness. A tie does for the pooches, the jowls and the puckering of an elderly male neck. The tie should be pulled tight right up to the Adam's apple, hiding the top button. A long-term shift towards casual dressing, which started in the 60s, meant wearing a tie gradually became restricted. But you wear a tie every day to work, do you?
I certainly wear a tie very frequently.
Yeah.
I would love for more strict and rigorous dress codes to come back in society. I think it is part of the broader decline.
Yes.
And scuzzification of Britain, what's happened to dress codes. You know, you look at video footage of a football game in the 1950s.
Yeah.
You know, working class blokes going to the football
They're all
game.
wearing hats, aren't
They're all wearing hats, they're all wearing ties, they're all wearing waistcoats and jackets, and you know, this is how people used to dress.
Yeah.
And it made cities look a lot nicer when everyone was dressed up and polished and cared about how they look. And now people are just walking around in Crocs and sweatpants.
Yeah.
But you know, if you can't beat them, join them, I suppose.
Slippers is one of my
terrible.
least favourite things to see.
People basically go out in pyjamas now.
They do.
They do. This would be if I was ever in government, I'd bring in a formal dress code for cities.
Yeah.
yeah.
And one of the
if you want
things-
to step outside, you have to have a tie on.
One of the things actually that really annoys me about Keir Starmer is that ludicrous kind of, casual look that he has when he wears like a dark jacket with a dark blue shirt and no tie.
Terrible.
And he looks ridiculous. Andy Burnham, the same.
Yeah.
I used to say that he looks like a sort of spare part of the New Order band. You know, he's got a sort of black polo neck on or a black turtleneck. And he doesn't like wearing jackets, he doesn't like wearing ties and shirts. It's not, politicians shouldn't be dressed like that. And finally, also, I don't know if you're a rugby fan, but coming up this weekend, it's the Six Nations, kicks off I'm not sure if there's a game on Friday night. Is it tonight?
Yeah, because of the opening of the Olympics tomorrow, Winter Olympics.
Oh, the Winter Olympics is opening tomorrow? I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
We don't cover the Winter Olympics here at the Mike Graham Show, unless there's a decent-looking woman doing... No, sorry. Anyway, no, but apparently adverts for the first time during rugby. ITV have obviously got the rights for it now, because the BBC lost it. And they're going to do what they do in American football, which I think is a terrible move, a terrible sort of travesty. And I speak as somebody who's in the new media world of YouTube, and I know that that's kind of ironic, because there are adverts that play in all the time. But they're going to actually play in ads as the players are getting ready to scrum.
Yeah.
So whenever there's a break in the game, effectively, you're going to get an advert.
Yeah, this is what it's like in American sports.
Yeah.
If you watch
Well, this is
baseball
why
or
when you
American
watch
football,
an NFL game, it goes on for about 4 hours.
Yeah, exactly. That's
because
right.
they keep breaking for ads. But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to work for rugby. Do you?
No, and it's the same in football as well. You see, what you're starting to see now is you'll see the football screen decrease in size slightly, and you'll get an advert on the side
Coming down, yeah.
But at least it remains free to watch, I suppose, which is important. So many sports. I mean, the cricket it's almost impossible to watch unless you're willing to.
Well, I mean,
pay
I've given up.
a big fat subscription.
One of my favourite sort of things to do during the week was to watch Champions League football.
Yeah.
And sometimes go to the pub and watch it, or sometimes watch it at home. And now I don't watch it at all because it's now behind a paywall.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to pay for it.
And obviously that does mean that fewer people watch the sport. And I know for cricket it's a big problem. Test cricket is brilliant. It's an incredible spectacle to watch. But, if you're having to pay 20, 30 quid a month to get access to it, then I can see why people choose not to. So, at least rugby is remaining free to watch. And the Six Nations can still remain that, annual event and annual tradition, and everyone can watch it. So, if adverts are helping to keep it free, then I can sort of see the case for it.
Absolutely. And finally, your first time in our new studio, what do you make of it?
It looks amazing. You've done a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I love all the little trinkets. You've got a beautiful crane behind me.
Yes.
That looks great. I think it's a crane.
It is a crane. Yeah, no, absolutely right. It is. And lots of people say it's too cluttered. I mean, I don't know who these people
brilliant.
are. You know, have we got, by the way, Pooch, have you got that picture of what it would look like if it was really cluttered? I don't know if you can find that, but just when you can, it'd be very funny to put it up. Now, there it is. Somebody sent sent that in. And I was like, yeah, maybe that's what we should aspire
I think that's
to.
the garden name is brilliant.
Yeah, just you know, maybe what we should do. Do you know what we could do, Pooch? Is we could say to everyone who comes into the studio has to bring an ornament with them, and just have them put it behind us.
So that's what we're doing on our podcast, which I know you've been on. We've got again these sort of bookshelves behind the guests, and we're asking them to bring in a little trinket each time. And I think you could do that. It would look lovely.
Yeah, I think so. And then we just collect more and more stuff. And for those OCD people watching, it would drive them all mad. You know, they'd all get very, very upset. Excellent stuff. Elliot, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Anything else coming up on the horizon for you guys related to the government in terms of, you know, how soon? Well, I suppose I should ask you, how soon do you think it will be before Starmer finally chucks in the towel?
Well, there's this by-election, isn't there, at the end of February? That feels like another critical moment.
A couple of weeks away
I'd be surprised. If he's still in place even for that by-election, that would raise an eyebrow. But if Labour get clobbered in that by-election, which I imagine they will, Andy Burnham will come out and say
they haven't even managed to find anybody British to run in it. They've got a Greek woman, right?
Yeah.
Who keeps talking about how she's been walking the streets of Manchester for years, which I don't think is quite the right tone to hear, is it? I'm with you. I mean, I know he will be absolutely desperate to cling on to whatever power he's got, because for him, this could be the biggest humiliation that he's ever had in his career.
And he knows that when the history books are written, what they may end up saying is that he was the architect for the death of the Labour Party.
Yeah, and he was also, responsible for them never getting into power again, and responsible also for being the worst and most unpopular Prime Minister in the history of Britain. The front page of the Daily Mail again, punctured perhaps beyond repair, Sir Keir deflated before our very eyes, Kemi kept bayoneting him from Labour MPs, there was a cold, sinister silence. That's Quentin Letts writing about Prime Minister's questions yesterday. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. Elliot, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Elliot Keck from the Taxpayers Alliance. We've got loads of great guests coming up over the course of the next couple of hours, but it's the next sort of hour and a bit, really. We're here every day now until 9:30, of course. Mr. Nick Freeman is going to be joining us later on. He's Mr. Loophole. He's going to be talking to us about some of the latest ruses to try and get even more money out of motorists, which are sort of more or less borderline illegal. Liam Halligan will be here as well, and plus Jamie Jenkins, of course, our favourite statistician down in South Wales. This, of course, is the Mike Graham Show. Coming up very shortly, we'll get some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning. It's Thursday, the 5th of February. I'm Edward Hughes, and I think I'm going crazy. Yet another glorious day in this sceptred isle. First, Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is back in the spotlight because... surprise, surprise, fresh Epstein file dumps and a cheeky email now apparently confirm that infamous photo with Virginia Giuffre is real. Shocking, I know. The Met Police are reviewing yet another claim he got sent a woman for royal hospitality reasons at Royal Lodge. He's moved out now, presumably to avoid the postman. Meanwhile, Keir, dead man walking Starmer, is busy regretting appointing slimy and treacherous Peter Mandelson as US ambassador after the old spin doctor apparently lied repeatedly about his own Epstein chats. Labour MPs are furious. Parliament's forcing document releases, democracy in action, or just another day of who knew what. Elsewhere, the Bank of England is predictably dithering on interest rates because inflation's playing hide-and-seek with one-off factors. The economy is supposedly gathering pace at the start of 2026. But don't worry, cost of living burdens are still clinging on like a bad ex. Junior doctors just extended their strike for another 6 months. Because nothing says NHS recovery like more walkouts. Didn't they sign a Hippocratic oath to first do no harm? And in other news, Grenfell Tower's finally getting demolished years after the tragedy, which I'm sure feels like closure to the families. Oh, and Palestine Action protesters got acquitted of some charges after breaking into an Israeli defense firm subsidiary. Juries these days, eh? Did you see Pep Guardiola talking about Gaza? What a tool. Truly, what a masterclass in progress. God save the king, or at least save us from the next headline. Cheers, Britain. Same again tomorrow. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Yes, do please remember to like and subscribe, because that is, of course, what it is that we need you to do. We're up to 129,000 subscribers now, and we've also got something like, we're about to hit 6 million views. I think we're 50,000 views away from about 6 million, which we probably will hit overnight tonight. The papers this morning absolutely chock full of only one story, and it's all about Keir Starmer fighting for his political life. Front page of the Times, Starmer fights for future over Mandelson's scandal. We've got the front page of the Daily Mail, Starmer in grave peril as Rayner twists the knife. Revolting is the Sun's take on it. Staff strike at Andrew's new home, and Labour MPs force Prime Minister Mandy into a U-turn because, of course, Prime Minister Keir Starmer yesterday got up in the House of Commons and said that he wanted to control effectively the narrative as to what revelations were released from the Epstein files, from the Mandelson files. Kemi Badenoch said that she wasn't happy with that, and it turned out that she won and they lost, and we'll come back to that in a moment. Right now, though, let's talk to Liam Halligan, who is, of course, columnist at The Telegraph, Planet Normal co-pilot, founder of When the Facts Change, and a very, very well-respected voice in the land of economics and politics. Liam, a very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I said this yesterday, and I'm probably going to say the same thing for several days to come. I've never quite seen the collapse of a government in such short order be so badly run and be so badly sort of stage managed by the Prime Minister, who yesterday looked like a man literally on the edge of a nervous breakdown.
He did indeed. It was a complete collapse in any sense of authority or even consent to rule in the House of Commons yesterday. The Prime Minister, I thought, was torn to pieces by Kemi Badenoch. I think she did a really good job at PMQs, very forensic. Her law degree there very much in the offing, fighting Starmer on his own ground of sort of forensic questioning. But the real blow to Starmer yesterday was the fact that Angela Rayner and her troops weighed in to absolutely complete the humiliation by forcing the government to change its amendment in terms of how all the various information about Peter Mandelson's vetting is released and the extent to which it is released. The Labour leadership Downing Street was trying to hide behind national security issues to stop the most embarrassing aspects of it coming out. But Angela Rayner and her troops, who really are gunning for Starmer now, were having none of that. And so a Common Select Committee, the Intelligence Committee, is going to determine what is released. And that is much, much more political and much, much more dangerous for Keir Starmer than number 10 being in control of that. He is now odds on to lose his premiership over the next year. And I really worry at the turmoil that's going to throw. I hold no candle at all for Keir Starmer. But what's going to happen to the public finances? What are those dreaded bond markets going to think once all the children in Westminster have stopped beating each other up and firing pea shooters and catapults at each other? These guys really are messing with the financial stability with their pathetic political antics. They are messing with the financial stability of the sixth biggest economy in the world and the livelihoods, literally, of tens of millions of people. I hope they're pleased with themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite extraordinary, hasn't it, how useless they have been at stewarding the government, but also stewarding the economy. I noted yesterday, as soon as I put on Prime Minister's questions, that Rachel Reeves was having another bad face day, as you might call it. You know, she looked miserable. She looked like she'd not had any sleep, big bags under her eyes. Her hair sort of sometimes just looks completely different. You know, one day it looks quite well coiffed. Yesterday, again, it looked as if she had just crawled out of bed. You know, she looks as miserable as she's ever looked because she knows that if Starmer goes, then she's out as well, right?
I hope the extent to which I hope her misery and depression is driven by a little bit more than her own personal position and the particular public sinecure that she happens to hold. I hope part of her depression is because she can see that her party is making an absolute Horlicks of running the economy. And they're going to provoke a bond crisis, and financial markets are going to go absolutely nuts when the Labour government collapses. And Rachel Reeves, who at least holds some vestige, at least pretends to understand the basics of financial markets and fiscal policy, and at least attempts to some degree to not completely let spending rip. When she's replaced by some mad lefty appointed by Prime Minister Angela Rayner. I mean, this is the problem we face. What are financial... Look, I'm sorry to keep going on about this, right? It's all very nice looking at the drama of Westminster and, oh, Mandy's out and, oh, he's a gossip, but he's a bit corrupt. Look at financial markets, because ordinary people out there are trying to run homes and households and businesses to keep the financial wolf from the door. And all this infighting among Labour and all this Westminster antics is going to spark a financial crisis. That is where we are, because whoever replaces Keir Starmer is going to be well to the left of Keir Starmer.
There's a good question on screen, Mike.
Labour Party, and financial markets are not going to like it one bit. We are already in a very fragile situation. We're borrowing 10, 15, 20 billion quid a month. We're paying huge debt interest on that. And those borrowing costs are only going to go up, and pretty sharply, if Reeves and Starmer are replaced by Angela Rayner and some completely economically illiterate buffoon from the Labour backbenches who appeals to the hard left.
Yeah. And I mean, the markets will have reacted in some way yesterday, I guess, to Prime Minister's questions. I mean, the papers this morning all seem pretty sure, even The Guardian, that the skids are under him, that it's the beginning of the end. There's really no way back. I mean, how have the markets actually reacted in the last, 12 hours or so, 24 hours?
Well, they've gone up. The borrowing costs have gone up slightly because everybody's waiting to see what happens. It's not so much about, from day to day, it's about trends. If you look at borrowing costs since this government came into office, for the whole of 2025, the government's borrowing costs were way above what they were at the height of the Liz Truss mini budget crisis, so-called, certainly when you look at longer term borrowing. And that, in the end, is what is crippling. If this government continues to pursue policies where the answer to all problems is more borrowing, more spending, more taxation, then they are going to drive the economy off a cliff. There's going to be no respite from the Bank of England. We've got a Bank of England interest rate decision today at noon, and they're going to hold interest rates. If they don't hold interest rates, it will be an absolute disgrace, given that inflation is now well above the Bank of England's target and going up. It's about 3.4, 3.5% on the headline measure. And everyone knows that that's a gross underestimate of the real increase in the cost of living. So the problem is that the financial markets are looking very closely at the UK. Our debt levels are high and rising, but far more importantly, our borrowing costs are an outlier now across the G7. Our inflation is an outlier across the G7. And in that sense, we simply cannot afford to have some mad political meltdown driven by factional infighting within the Labour Party. And if these guys do spark some kind of financial crisis, as if British firms and UK firms and households haven't got enough to be getting on with, trying to keep the wolf from the door under current circumstances. If these guys spark a financial crisis, then public faith in political leadership, already pretty low, will go even lower. And that really worries me. I think that will have societal impacts. I think it's going to become really hard to run the British economy if these guys spark a crisis driven by their own ideological warfare.
Well, this is the week that pubs face even further problems because of the increase in alcohol tax, which means that they're going to have to put the price of pints up. It means that they're going to be taking less money out. More places will shut down. We know there's already a crisis on the high street, which Labour have kind of identified, and so they're going to rejuvenate it and they're going to regenerate the high street. But I don't know how they're going to do that, because they seemingly want only more money to be squeezed out of small business. They're not encouraging anyone to employ people. I think we're going to have this week the first or the highest unemployment rate for 5 years. which is going to be announced. You know, we've got nothing but gloom and doom coming out of the economic forecasters. So, I mean, I don't see how there's any kind of light for anybody at the end of this tunnel, is there?
The unemployment is worth mentioning, Mike. Since August 2024, since the start of this Labour government, unemployment's gone up from just over 4% to just over 5%. So it is approaching new historic highs, as you say. The number of payrolled employees has fallen by getting on for 250,000. And particularly among younger people, a lot of your younger listeners, Mike, and a lot of their parents will recognise this. He's absolutely cranked up the minimum wage for younger people. And that's the kind of thing Labour governments like to do. Let's just pass a law and everything will be better because we're good people. No, that's not how it works. You are now having a real issue with young people getting those kind of starter jobs in retail, in pubs, in restaurants, getting them into the world of work, getting them to get up on time, turn up, be responsible. Those jobs simply aren't there anymore because Starmer has whacked up the minimum wage for young people by 16% last year, completely mad. And we've got another huge rise coming. And also he's raised national insurance. Reeves has national insurance for employers, and he's lowered the threshold where that employers need to start paying that national insurance to the very, it's above $5,000 now. You earn $5,000 in a year. Almost nothing, a student job, and your employer's paying national insurance. That's completely nuts. And all this reflects, Mike, the fact, and we've talked about this before, there's no one on the Labour front bench, no one at all that has any proper experience starting, running, building a business. There's almost zero understanding of what it takes to run a small business. And these small and medium-sized enterprises, Mike, they are the engine room of the British economy. They drive over half our growth. They drive 2/3 of our employment. 2/3 of us are employed by these companies. And Labour is absolutely using them like cash cows. Yes, Labour does lots of favours for its mates in the big law firms, the big consultancy firms, the big green energy firms, and it gets lots of nice bungs in the form of political donations from them. But it does nothing for the SME, the army of SME owners and workers who drive this country forward, because none of them have ever founded an SME. None of them have ever had to make payroll. They're all on public sector sinecures. The salary rolls in. It's other people's money. How different are these guys from Tony Blair and New Labour? At least Tony Blair and New Labour had a few people among them who understood business, and so they didn't treat business, particularly small businesses, as an endless cash cow. And how ironic that there were some pretty good things about that Blair government. Certainly, I think it's the only successful Labour government of our lifetimes, and yet also a lot of the spin and infighting that the Blair government was famous for has now, of course, spilled over into this Starmer administration, personified immaculately by Peter Mandelson yesterday.
That's exactly right. Funnily enough, I was watching, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it yesterday evening, a podcast, because I was saying yesterday, Alistair Campbell's gone a bit quiet. He hasn't said much about Peter Mandelson's demise, or indeed what he's been up to and when he was working with Gordon Brown in 2009. But there's a new podcast out from Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart, in which they discuss Peter Mandelson as if he's a guy that neither one of them has ever met. It's this kind of, delusional kind of rewriting of history, where it's almost as if they're sort of setting aside the personality and talking about the situation and how it was possible for somebody like Peter Mandelson to get involved in this web of intrigue with Jeffrey Epstein, and how, Jeffrey Epstein had this ability to sort of be spider-like around the world and sort of, put his tentacles, I know that's a bit of a mixed metaphor, into various different places, a spider with tentacles. But you have to say, Alistair Campbell was absolutely key to the whole New Labour project, as was Peter Mandelson, and I suspect both of them still very much key into what now Starmer has been trying to do. But it's all just blown itself apart, hasn't it?
Of course he was key. I was there as a young lobby correspondent, political reporter, witnessing it all up close and personal, getting abused by Alistair Campbell, Peter Mandelson trying to get me sacked from the newspaper I was working for at the time because I kept coming up with some stories and I wouldn't accept their spin, unlike loads of other absolute lackey journalists that I found in political reporting in the late 1990s. Absolutely mesmerised by the Blair Project. They could do something wrong. Look, don't get me wrong. There was a lot that was good about that government, and Peter Mandelson, certainly did a lot to rescue the Labour Party from the insanity that it was in the mid and late 70s and into the early 80s. Peter Mandelson helped to make a Labour Party a Labour government finally electable, and he helped it in some senses to finally do an okay job of not completely trashing the economy for once, unlike the Wilson governments, which did in the 60s, the Callaghan government, which did in the 70s, IMF bailout, of course, and as the Starmer government is now going to do, it seems. So Blair stands out as pretty much the only Labour government pretty much ever, certainly in modern times, that hasn't overseen a massive macroeconomic crisis, an exchange rate devaluation, or some kind of other financial meltdown. Mandelson was a big part of that, but it turns out he has, a very deep character flaw. Is that, as he said to Jeffrey Epstein in one of the famous emails, I don't want to live by salary alone. Well, how about joining the real world, Peter Mandelson? If you want to go into business, then go into business properly. But don't think you can be in business and be in public life at the same time and concealing it all. Look, it strikes me, very expert legal friends tell me that this guy's going to be arrested, right? Yeah. And he's probably going to do jail time. Yeah. And what is that going to do for public faith in political leadership and politics? Yes. And no wonder the likes of Campbell and Stewart are distancing themselves from Mandelson. Of course, that's what politicians do. Gordon Brown's distancing himself from Mandelson, endless.
Having brought him back from
this inquiry. Yeah, mate, you brought him into the House of Lords.
Right.
You brought him into the House of Lords. You've got to own it. And this is fooling no one. And again, my fear is that this is going to spark, I'm afraid, the idea that Starmer's on his way out and Reeves is on her way out. That they are completely economically irresponsible in my view, but their replacements from the Labour Party will be even more economically irresponsible. It's like an ugly contest. And the incoming Labour government that takes over from Starmer and Reeves is going to be even more ugly when it comes to their ability to manage the public finances and their determination to just throw caution to the wind and, it's the right thing to do, so we're going to borrow the money and spend it, and we'll abolish the bond markets if we have to. I mean, there are lots of Labour backbenchers. They literally think like this because they've been public sector workers all their life, and they don't really understand how to make and create money and how to manage any kind of modern economy. That is my deep concern. I'm as interested in the politics as everybody. It's an incredible spectacle, isn't it? It's showbiz for ugly people. But what I'm thinking of this morning as I watch this government melt down is what is going to replace it and how the market's going to react. And I suspect as and when this happens, the entire country is soon going to be thinking along those lines.
And indeed. Well, I mean, I've been saying for a very long time, Liam, as you probably know, that I think there will be an economic calamity that befalls this country and this government well before the end of 2027, which will force an election. And that's why I think that in time, not only will Starmer not make it to 2029, but the whole Labour government won't make it to 2029 because I think things will be that bad. I mean, it shows you how hopeless they are at sort of, even garnering business when you look at who he took with him on his trip to China. Even he came back and sort of tried to make out we took 60, business leaders with us. They didn't take 60 business leaders. They took some business leaders from some companies, but they took an awful lot of what I would call kind of public sector employees. They took the chief of the Natural History Museum. They took the Museum Scotland chief executive. They took the mayor of the West Midlands. These were all part of the, the sort of charabanc, if you like, who were never going to be in a position to offer money or to take even investment from China. It was just a jolly for them.
Yeah, these aren't wealth-creating people. These
No.
people are net subtractions to our national balance sheet. And I'm sure they do great work, and I'm sure, the museums are nicely run and so on. That's great. But at the moment, what's really important is shoring up our national balance sheet and making sure that we don't have some kind of financial meltdown, a financial meltdown for which our political class will not be ready. I mean, are reform ready? I don't think reform are ready. I don't think reform.
Funnily enough, there's a story. There's a story in the Mail today. Nigel Farage is giving an interview to I think it might be Laura Kunsberg, a BBC documentary anyway, in which he says we're half ready. So that even he's admitting they're not ready. Not yet.
And Farage, like some of the rest of us, has been saying he thinks there's going to be a fiscal meltdown prior to the scheduled end of this Parliament in 2029, which will cause some kind of change. He's been talking about 2027 for a while as well. But I think I don't want to be a sandwich board man predicting doom and gloom. But I do talk to, I'm one of the very, very, very few journalists who actually understands and talks to serious people in financial markets and sovereign debt markets in particular. It astonishes me the lack of understanding of this stuff among not just other journalists, but in particular politicians and political leaders. It's as if lots of these politicians, they make sure they don't understand this stuff. They deliberately deny themselves the opportunity to get their head around it because it would mess with their ideology and their worldview and mean they actually have to grow up and start being accountable and living within the country, living within its means and having proper budget constraints that mean you have some kind of international confidence, which means your government can still borrow money at reasonable rates. This is the problem, I think, that we're facing, and none of it is helped by these political antics. In fact, our political meltdown now makes it worse. I mean, what's the rest of the world thinking of the UK at this point? We're meant to be, our political and media class so often say we've got to be an example on this, that, and the other. We have to do net zero unilaterally.
Yes.
Because the Chinese will follow us because we're morally superior. I mean, it's completely mad when you see what's going on now.
Yeah.
And what I thought was good, albeit they were doing it for their own sort of nefarious party political purposes, I do think it was good. We saw a really strong response in the House of Commons yesterday after Kemi pulled Starmer apart at PMQs. I thought she did a good job at PMQs to elicit that response with very forensic questioning. Yes, Starmer did know about Mandelson's ongoing relationship with Epstein when he appointed him to be the UK's ambassador to the US. Yes, he did know about the relationship, but then he was hiding behind the fact he didn't know about the depth of the relationship. The fact that they were still friends is an absolute, flashing light on the dashboard, aside from the fact that the guy has obviously resigned from the cabinet twice back in the day, the early 90s and in the late 90s and early 2000s. Blair brought him back. He rehabilitated him as European Commissioner, and then Brown rehabilitated him again in 2009, bunged him in the Lords, trying to shore up Brown's failing premiership. The Labour Party has to own this, and it seems to me that a lot of the backbenchers are prepared to own it because they want to get rid of that kind of what they call the right wing of the Labour Party, as if these people are right wing. But the likes of Mandelson, the likes of Campbell, the likes of Morgan McSweeney in Downing Street, the so-called Labour modernisers, and they want to replace it with a hard left government. If we do get a hard left government, Mike, it really won't be a good time to be in the UK.
No. No, you and I'll have to go and set up a shop somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic, I think.
Crikey, it would be like Radio Caroline all over again.
Exactly right. No, I'm not joking. If that did happen, I think I would seriously consider moving. Absolutely right. Listen, Liam, brilliant to see you. Thank you. Lots of people saying you should be Chancellor. We know that. Absolutely right. Let me just remind you of the media class of this country. Andrew Marr, who made a big song and dance last night about how he thought Keir Starmer was a very nice man, and he got into politics for all the right reasons. We're very terribly sorry, but it looks like the end. Here's what he said on election night, and you might remember this. For the first time in many of our lives, actually, Britain looks like a little haven of peace and stability. Thanks very much, Andrew. Another searingly important,
that's pure ideology.
stunning insight.
There's no critical analysis in that statement at all. That is pure ideology. There is deep ideology right across our media class, as of course there is across our political class. That's a serious lack of judgment. But of course, Andrew Marr is saying what all his friends want him to say, because these people live in a kind of North London Labour lovey bubble.
Yeah.
And the rest of the country is looking on thinking, you're all mad.
I know. Incredible. Liam, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. We must have you on more often because you speak so much sense. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Liam Hannigan. And tell us about where you can find your Substack, actually, before we let you go.
Yeah, When the Facts Change. I put a show out every week, every Friday morning on When the Facts Change. Obviously do my Telegraph columns every Sunday. Planet Normal with Alison Pearson. That's out today. That's my Telegraph podcast. Got a brilliant interview with Sir Richard Dearlove, no less, our former top spook, the former head of MI6. You want to hear what he's got to say about Peter Mandelson. You also want to hear some of the stuff that Alison's unearthed about Lucy Connolly, and I think the Telegraph's reported it today.
Yes.
The fact that our political class at the highest level accelerated her prosecution and made sure that she did jail for a tweet, albeit a nasty tweet, a tweet that she later regretted, or a few hours later, and deleted. This was a traumatized mum who'd lost a child. This was somebody who was really, really upset at the Southport riots, at the Southport murders of those little girls who were there for a dance class, doing nasty, Western hedonistic things, moving their bodies to music and enjoying themselves. Well, some lunatic didn't have that, so he slaughtered them. And Lucy Connolly was really, really upset by that. Should she really have gone to jail?
No.
Should she have had a 31-month jail sentence for a tweet?
Exactly. Exactly right. That sounds like a fantastic podcast. We'll point everybody in that direction. Liam, great to see you again. Thank you very much indeed. We've got to run because it's coming up to 11 minutes past 8 on Thursday morning, the 5th of February. We've got so much more to do. Jamie Jenkins is going to be along very shortly. We're going to talk to Nick Freeman as well, who is Mr. Loophole, of course, our man with his eyes on the prize. If you're a driver, you'll want to hear what he's got to say. Also, Hamish de Bretton Gordon is going to be here. Gawain Towler as well from Reform. So much happening on the show today, and so many of you watching now. Again, record numbers today. Thank you very much indeed, but not as many likes, I think, as we should be having. So please do go and like and subscribe to the channel. 129,000 subscribers now. I'll tell you what we'll do. If we can get it up to 5,000 likes today, I'll sing you a song. How about that? And I know exactly which song you're going to sing as well, and it will be in order to hasten the demise of Keir Starmer, the plank. Coming up, let's have some news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning. It's Thursday, the 5th of February. I'm Edward Hughes, and I think I'm going crazy. Yet another glorious day in this sceptred isle. First, Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is back in the spotlight because, surprise, surprise, fresh Epstein file dumps and a cheeky email now apparently confirm that infamous photo with Virginia Giuffre is real. Shocking, I know. The Met Police are reviewing yet another claim he got sent a woman for royal hospitality reasons at Royal Lodge. He's moved out now, presumably to avoid the postman. Meanwhile, Keir, dead man walking Starmer, is busy regretting appointing slimy and treacherous Peter Mandelson as US ambassador after the old spin doctor apparently lied repeatedly about his own Epstein chats. Labour MPs are furious. Parliament's forcing document releases, democracy in action, or just another day of who knew what? Elsewhere, the Bank of England is predictably dithering on interest rates because inflation's playing hide-and-seek with one-off factors. The economy is supposedly gathering pace at the start of 2026. But don't worry, cost of living burdens are still clinging on like a bad ex. Junior doctors just extended their strike for another 6 months. Because nothing says NHS recovery like more walkouts. Didn't they sign a Hippocratic oath to first do no harm. And in other news, Grenfell Tower's finally getting demolished years after the tragedy, which I'm sure feels like closure to the families. Oh, and Palestine Action protesters got acquitted of some charges after breaking into an Israeli defense firm subsidiary. Juries these days, eh? Did you see Pep Guardiola talking about Gaza? What a tool. Truly, what a masterclass in progress. God save the king, or at least save us from the next headline. Cheers, Britain. Same again tomorrow. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's 8:15. I was just talking to Pooch because I've got this, right? As a result of all the stramash, which is a great Scottish word, around the crane and Donald and everything that went on for the last couple of days, if you haven't been made aware of it and you've only just joined us, obviously it's part of the scenario whereby you voted to get rid of the crane. We got rid of the crane, and then everybody complained that we'd got rid of the crane and that we shouldn't have got rid of the crane and we should bring the crane back. So we went and found the crane in the bin, managed to retrieve it, albeit that it fell apart at some point. In fact, have we got that? Shall we show them? Have a look at this. This is Pooch replacing the crane yesterday after its legs came off. Pooch very kindly escorted me to the bins yesterday, and we managed to find the heron just before the people took it out. So if you watch carefully, you'll see him.
His legs are fallen off.
Oh, his legs have fallen off. The heron is literally the heron is literally now in two pieces. What can he do? He's got a bag over his head because you'll never see Pooch's face. He's like the Stig. You'll never see him. He's trying to put the old heron together. Maybe put him on the shelf.
Yeah, it's not easy when you've got a bag on your head.
No, I can see. You know, that's probably another picture that we'll see coming out from the Mandelson files of Mandelson with a bag over his head. No doubt. Pooch, thank you very much indeed. Thank you to all of you for watching. Thank you to Charlotte for setting everything up. So that was the bag over the head Pooch replacing the heron stroke crane back in its rightful place. But as a result of emptying the box, which had the word crane on it, right, this fell out. And this is the instructions, basically, for how to put it together. Look at this. The whole set includes one head, one body, 2 feet parts, 2 U-shaped spikes, right? And it says how you install it. As a garden decoration, it is also a great gift option. And it comes from a German place, which says Metal Karana Geschenke, which translated into English means metal crane gifts. The idea that Donald bought it because he believed it to be a heron, when the name of the company actually has the word crane in it, to beggars belief. Metal crane gifts, right? That's what it says. It's got pictures.
It's not a great gift option.
It's like, if you want a heron, right, you don't want a crane, right? So somebody said to me, it's a bit like somebody saying, I bought you some really nice Scotch whiskey, and they hand you a bottle, and when you open up the box, it's a bottle of gin. It's not whiskey, it's gin. This is not a heron, it's a crane. And there he is. Anyway, the saga continues, ladies and gentlemen. Before we speak to Jamie Jenkins, I should really do a little monologue for you. Mike's meltdown. I don't know if have we got a little sting for that? Not yet. No, we're working on that. Charlotte's a busy woman. I mean, Pooch needs to be an octopus, so does she. But it's time for me to talk to you about the situation that we are now facing in this country, okay? Because rather like Liam Halligan just said, we are now the laughingstock of the entire world, right? Because we appointed to a very senior position an international diplomat who, it turns out, makes jokes about well-hung young men, who was friends with a convicted paedophile. Not only friends with him, but was in a position to give him some very, very secretive and very, very hard to come by information about government policy, about financial planning, about treasury business that nobody else knew about, in order for that person to enrich themselves and perhaps to even enrich Peter Mandelson himself. This is embarrassing, right? Keir Starmer stood up in the House of Commons yesterday at Prime Minister's Questions and looked for all the world like a completely broken and useless individual. We've all known for a long time that Starmer has no talent for leadership. We've all known for a long time that Starmer has no idea about ordinary working people in this country, even though he kind of coined the phrase working people, that he was going to help. I'll tell you what he's done for working people. He's ruined their lives. He's ruined the lives of people who own homes. He's put their council tax up. He's put their costs of living up. He's put the price of everything up. Ever since Labour got into power in July of 2024, we've had more migrants arrive than arrived under 3 years of Boris Johnson, right? Student loans have gone up. Kids can't afford to go to university. Kids can't get jobs because national insurance has gone up. And so employers can't actually employ an awful lot of young people because it's too expensive. They've changed the rules on workers' rights, which makes it even more difficult for businesses to run themselves without getting caught out by chippy employees who want to sue them and who want to try and take more time off sick than ever. They've ruined the NHS, which is now in a worse state than it's ever been, even under the Tories. They continue to give pay rises to people who don't deserve them. Doctors, for example, who've already had a 35% pay rise. They'll end up giving them more money. They gave train drivers 14% of a pay rise. They claim they've put money in people's pockets, but they haven't. They've taken money out of most people's pockets. All they've done is created broken Britain, a place which is now more divided than it's ever been, a place where no one in the history of time ever wants to see a Labour government ever again. And in the end, Keir Starmer will be remembered for one thing. He will be remembered for destroying Britain and destroying the Labour government and destroying Labour Party's policies and abilities to ever be in government again. And that will be his legacy. And quite frankly, he deserves it. He's a useless automaton. He's a colourless individual. He's got no character. He's got no backbone. He's got absolutely no belief system. He's not even really a human being, as far as I can see. And the best thing he can do is stand out on the streets today, come out of number 10 Downing Street, put the lectern out there and say, I'm chucking it in. I've realised that I'm not fit for this job. I am not fit to be the Prime Minister of this country. I'm not fit to lead this country. I am completely and utterly useless. And I think I will head off with Sir Peter Mandelson, or Lord Peter Mandelson, into exile. And as our poll says, they'll probably both end up in Gaza. Good place for them, as far as I can see. He'd probably rather be in Gaza than Westminster anyway. What an absolute and utter disaster Keir Starmer has been. I said he would be. And once again, I was proved right. Thanks very much indeed. Coming up after this, Jamie Jenkins. Mr. Jamie Jenkins, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. I think if people are wondering where the crane came from and who Donald is, I got to give a plug to your Plank of the Week last week, Mike, that we had. And I think more people want more wine tasting before Plank of the Week every week, Mike. It's a legendary show. I wonder if how many bottles of Plonk Donald had when he bought that on Amazon.
Yeah, well, I do wonder. I think the serious questions must be asked. Because as I say, everything about the heron suggested it's a crane, and everything. There's about 55 different ways of finding out that it was a crane. But there we are. Here's the thing. We've spoken to Liam Halligan this morning. We've spoken to Elliot Keck from the Taxpayers Alliance. You know, the final days of Keir Starmer are looming large, aren't they? I mean, I don't know whether you want to make a prediction as to how long he actually lasts, but I don't think I've ever seen Keir Starmer look more nervous, look more hopeless, and look more just useless than he did yesterday in Parliament.
No, Mike, and we could probably do with a crane to go over Downing Street and lift him up. I think that would be a good start, I think. But so predictions-wise, I think he'd probably try and hang on a little bit because, as you've been discussing this morning, who's going to replace him? But the local elections are going to be a critical part of this, and we've got the Welsh national elections and the Scottish elections as well. And there was a poll done, Mike, and I wrote about this on my Substack this week as well. There was a poll done between November and January. So this predates all the carnage that we've had over the last 48 hours of Welsh Labour voters. And remember, Labour have pretty much run Wales. They've won most of the elections for the last 100 years. we had the Welsh Parliament created in 1999, and they've run the Welsh Parliament since then. And they did a poll of Welsh Labour voters, and it's quite damning there, Mike, that 1 in 4 Welsh Labour voters have said they will never vote for Labour again. You know, this isn't just
Wow.
moving across the party. They'll never vote for the Labour Party again. And in your kind of a monologue there, Mike, and you're saying that Starmer is the death of the Labour Party. Well, that 1 in 4, Mike, it's going to get worse. It's going to be even higher. I think the silver lining in this is, you know, he has literally destroyed the Labour Party. And the local elections, if Labour, and you believe the polls of what we've got, it's kind of, some polls have got Reform in the lead in Wales, some have got Plaid Cymru, the Nationalists, in the lead. If you believe the polls, they could even go down to 4th. And for them to lose power in Wales so tragically in terms of the size of the decline for the, and I say tragically for the Labour movement, great for Wales. You know, if they lose that, Mike, and the local elections across England as well, May the 7th, you know, if he hasn't gone by then, he will have to resign, basically, because he cannot survive having a decimation in the polls. And the public are voting, Mike. You know, people watching the show realise what's going on. Absolute devastation. So my prediction is I'd be surprised if he's here after May the 8th.
Yes. I wonder if he survives beyond the by-election up in Gorton as well, because, I mean, it looks as though Labour are not even contesting that seat in any kind of competitive way. It looks as if they're, at the very least, going to come in third. I mean, that's about as best that they can expect to do, losing out to the Greens and losing out to Reform. So I wonder if that would be the catalyst for him to go as well.
Yeah, but that by-election is one that they could have probably won as well, Mike, because, you know, they blocked Andy Burnham going there.
Yeah.
I'm sure potentially Reform may have not put in the candidate that they put in. You know, he's quite a popular figure. He's got quite a bit of a following as well as Matt Goodwin. So maybe they wouldn't have gone down that road because Reform would have done an assessment as to the likelihood of winning. With Andy Burnham there, big popular figure in Manchester, you know, Labour probably would have got there. But I think we discussed, last week, Meg on Plank of the Week, that the reason Starmer doesn't want him in there is he's a big threat to his premiership. But the last 48 hours have shown he's pretty much toast anyway, isn't he, Starmer? So absolute nonsense in terms of not going for that. But ultimately, Mike, you know, what the legacy that he's going to be leaving behind when he does go, as I say, is we've got jobs losses going up, unemployment's going up, you know, the borrowing figures are off the scale. And the big thing here is that I think if Starmer goes, Reeves goes as well. And ultimately, that's great in terms of where we are. But if we go more left-wing, I don't think the Labour Party are going to go more to the right. If we go more to the left, that could be even worse than the Starmageddon that we've been seeing over the last 18, 19 months.
No, exactly right. And let's talk a bit on the national debt, because, you know, it's something that's so huge as far as a number is concerned that people can't really get their heads around it. But, I mean, it's a worry, isn't it? Because we're never really ever going to pay it off.
Oh, never going to pay it off. Like 2.94 trillion is the national debt. And people compare that then in terms of the size of the economy. So if you think of the size of the UK economy, where we add up all the goods and services that we produce, the national debt is about 95, 96% of that actual annual figure of everything we produce. And because the national debt is so high, the problem you then have is that we've borrowed and borrowed. And it's not just this government, Mike, it's successive governments for decades have just borrowed every single year, even during some of those good years, during the Brown and Blair era. Borrowing more money than what we actually spend means that we get 100 billion debt every year. And I just written this morning, Mike, on my Stat of the Nation that people can find, that part of this as well, if you think about why we have a national debt, is that as a nation, what we do is basically we've got all the wealth that we create with all the productivity and the goods and services, but we're a net importer of things like energy, of goods. And over the last 10, 20, 30 years, we've outsourced so many jobs to China. So Starmer was over in China last week. We've outsourced so many jobs to China. And what that does is that some of the wealth of the UK leaves the UK. And part of the reason for all of this outsourcing as well has been this massive drive that the politicians have got for net zero. And two key facts on this, Mike, that, you know, if the UK got to net zero literally overnight tomorrow, so we got no net, you know, emissions, net zero, China emits in 9 days what the UK does. So literally in 9 days, if the UK got to net zero overnight, it's 9 days. And people then say, well, China's a bigger country. But in the last 4 years alone, Mike, China has added 4 UK's worth of global CO2 emissions. So you can park the argument, you know, is CO2 good or bad? Park that. But everybody's having this drive for net zero. 4 UKs have been added to the global emissions by China in 4 years. And we've got this madness of the policies that we've got. Why are we borrowing so much money then, Mike? Because our industrial strategy is off. We don't have a credible one. And the critical thing there, Mike, is that you look at industrial energy prices. They're 4 times higher in the UK than the US. China's even lower than the US. So how can British business compete producing things when our energy prices are so high? Because Ed Miliband's putting all of these wind farms up everywhere. That's the real thing, Mike. That's what happens. People's pockets are being damaged by the government's net zero policies, and China laughing at us. Basically, they're sending all these solar farm, all the solar panels, all the windmills. They're laughing at us. They're making the money. People in this country are struggling, which is why the debt goes up, Mike.
Yeah, exactly right. And today, the Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee will announce interest rate cuts or possibly increases. What's going to happen?
Well, I imagine because inflation's still sticky, and part of the reason inflation's still a bit sticky and still a bit higher than the likes of France and Germany, Mike, is because we've got policies of the government where they've pushed, I think some of the tobacco taxes have pushed inflation up recently, taxes on jobs have pushed inflation up. So the government policies have kept inflation up, and then the government then will have the Bank of England trying to balance that. The Bank of England generally, Mike, just follows what happens in the USA anyway, because you've also got to look at the interest rates in relation to the exchange rates, and you've got to make sure that the pound to the dollar doesn't get too expensive, because that can have an impact on kind of imports and exports. I don't think they'll do a lot, Mike, but on the Bank of England, I'm just surprised that Andrew Bailey's still in charge of the Bank of England when you think of the mess of the COVID pandemic and all the money printing, because big chunk of that, Mervyn King, former governor of the Bank of England, Mike said, I think he was on the BBC many years ago during the COVID pandemic. It wasn't rocket science. I think when we printed all that money, when the economy was kind of being shut down, and it led to massive inflation. And it wasn't just the UK, it happened around the world. A lot of these central banks are at fault as to why the debt is as bad as things are and the inflation that we've had as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And that is the problem, isn't it? You can't get away from the bottom line, which is the economy. And when Keir Starmer does leave, and he does take Rachel Reeves with him, presumably, God knows what's going to happen then.
No, I think what my kind of economics, I've done economics to study that, Mike. No, I'm a big believer in putting people's money in their pockets. The best person to spend the money is the individual, rather than, taxing and having the government decide what they're spending it on. So this is a government that's obviously taxing the workers and then giving more benefits to the shirkers. That's pretty much what the government's doing. And that doesn't get the economy going. But the energy story that I published this morning, that is important though, because like I say, the US is thriving as an economy compared to the UK. And that's because if you get cheap energy, what that will do, it'll bring inflation down, because ultimately, Mike, energy, you use that to produce everything. If you go to the cafe this morning, basically, everything, they got to warm the place up. They've got to use the machines. So electricity feeds into all of our prices that we pay. If you can get that energy price down, like say 4 times the UK's industrial energy prices are compared to the US, you get that down, you wouldn't need things like winter fuel allowances, because energy would come down.
Yeah.
UK would be more competitive, and companies would invest in the UK, and then we get more jobs. So that's the legacy, I think. The one thing we've got to remember, Mike, we've got the mess. We've had Ed Miliband. There's talk of him being the next prime minister. He'd be even worse than Keir Starmer. If you can get a good industrial strategy with good energy policy, that will get Britain thriving again. We don't have that from this government. And just remember, it was Theresa May who put the net zero policy into law as well, to hit it by 2050. So the Tory party need a reckoning as well.
They absolutely do. Jamie, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Tell us where they can find your Substack.
Yeah, so just basically Mike, statsjamie.co.uk. They can Google Stat of the Nation as well, and you get plenty of content, Mike. I'll share some of the highlights, clips of what we've been talking as well. And get over there, and get over to your one as well, Mike, the Mike Graham Show, because your subscribers. I know people, we were talking last week about YouTube and adverts. They can watch you for with no adverts over on your Substack. So pop over and pop on to Mike's as well.
Great stuff. Jamie Jenkins, thank you very much indeed. Our favourite statistician, formerly from the Office for National Statistics, of course. Coming up, we can speak to Hamish de Bretton-Gordon, who's got some interesting things to say about Zach Polanski, amongst many other things. But before we do that, a couple of other things to bring to your attention. You might remember last week we had Liz Truss, the former Prime Minister, here in the studio talking to us about the state of play, the state of the nation, why Britain is failing and why it needs a new kind of right-wing organisation to kind of grip it by the neck and get it working again. I also appeared on her podcast, which goes out every single week. It went out back end of last week, and I just thought I'd play a little clip from it. Now, don't be alarmed, but at the beginning, the beginning of the clip, my voice sounds a bit weird. I'm not quite sure if it's their problem, but it's not really quite how I normally would sound. But here we are, I am talking about the state of the media in this country.
How can we achieve this media revolution?
I think it's going to help itself because, like the political parties, Labour and the Tories, it's kind of slowly dying. Everything about, well, I don't really like the term legacy media, or mainstream media, but we call it either one of those things. Everything is in decline. You know, the BBC was overtaken in December by YouTube as the most watched channel for information and for news.
Now they're trying to do a deal with YouTube.
Yeah, it sort of ends a bit abruptly there. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the start of that. It sounds really odd, doesn't it? It sounds like... Should we play it again? Go on.
How can we achieve this media revolution?
I think it's going to help itself because, like the political parties, Labour and the Tories...
I think it's going to help itself. Sounds a bit like Mike Tyson. I think it's going to help itself. Unbelievable. I don't know whether you know this, but I was one of the first people to interview Mike Tyson back in the day for a British newspaper when nobody really knew who he was. Amazing. If you might remember seeing it, there's a very famous picture taken by my good friend Mickey Brennan of him with no shirt on holding a white dove, because he used to look after doves when he lived with Custom Arto in upstate New York. And this was when he was fighting about once a month before he was heavyweight champion, and he was a very young man. And he had this ridiculous sounding lisp. And you just thought, this guy's so powerful, he literally crushed me with one of his hands. But he sounded a bit like that. A bit strange, really. Anyway, listen, we've got lots more to do. Plenty of time with which to do it in. Gawain Towler's going to join us. Nick Freeman as well, Mr. Loophole, the lawyer. But first up, Hamish de Bretton-Gordon is here, I believe. Is he here? Hamish, a very good morning to you, sir.
Hi, good morning, Mike.
Good to see you. Welcome to the new Mike Graham show. We are unleashed and sort of unburdened by the shackles, I should say, probably of the mainstream. I see you've been writing in the Telegraph about my good friend, and I say that with my tongue firmly in my cheek, Zach Polanski, who's a very curious cove, it seems to me. Tell us why you've written about him.
Well, I was sort of pretty exasperated by Zach Polanski, leader of a national party, the Greens, who no doubt have got a lot of very good stuff to do on saving the planet. He came out suggesting that NATO should be abolished and a new sort of European NATO should be developed, including Mexico and Brazil. I was a bit exasperated by that. I agree. With America stepping back from NATO, we do need to review how it works, but it's worked pretty well for 80 years. And the bottom line, I think we in the UK and Europe need to do some heavy lifting in Europe. But for somebody like Polanski, who I don't know him from Adam, but I know that he doesn't have much of a geopolitical background. I think he was a hypnotherapist before moving into politics. Yes. And then he sort of suggested I should be ignored because I'm too posh. And my second article sort of pointed out that actually, if being a fifth generation soldier is posh, then guilty as charged. But actually, I think I was trying to put a bit of balance and really exasperated that him and the Greens should be focusing on this rather than, surely their marginal advantage is in green things, not defence, which doesn't appear in their manifesto at all. So, he's skewing the argument. And hopefully, I think by by the fact that a million people have looked at various quotes he's made about me and sort of dismissed them. I think generally the public realise he's a bit of a joke character.
Well, I think that's the problem. I mean, he appeared on Laura Kunsberg's show on Sunday as part of their sort of series of interviewing party leaders, right? And funnily enough, he very rarely mentions climate change. He very rarely mentions what you would think would be the sort of the base foundation of any Green Party, which would talk about, you know, the environment and you know, the old-fashioned Green Party who would sort of, you know, knit jumpers out of muesli and all that kind of thing, and wear you know, sandals without socks or with socks possibly. But instead, he talks about, you know, doing away with landlords, adopting some kind of rent control issue, but he can't name any place in the world where it's worked, and he can't name any place in the world whose system he would adopt. As you say, he talks about defence, he talks about doing away with NATO and finding some other alliance. He talks about having no borders, he talks about legalising all drugs. And, you know, as you say, I suspect, and I said this to somebody just the other week, that something will come out about him. I'm not sure he's exactly who he says he is either. And in fact, there have been some suggestions that he comes from quite a posh background, and he's not entirely as he kind of purports himself to be, shall we say.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I do admit in my piece that I went to private school all my life, because my father was a soldier and serving abroad, and the state picked up the tab, which as it should do. And Polensky went to a private school as well, but he got there on a scholarship. So I tip my hat to him. You know, well done for him, try and better himself. But then again, yesterday we see him congratulating the jury for not spotting that one of the Palestine Action people hit a policeman on the back with a sledgehammer that broke their back. And, you know, this sort of trying to skew the media in such a way I agree, doesn't strike you as somebody of a leading national party and one that professes to be green and all things green and, you know, described as you've described it. So, you know, I think he's doing a great disservice to the Greens, because he's pretty much made them irrelevant, I think, and the chances of any right-minded person voting for them with him in charge, you know, must be pretty negligible. But again, I don't support much what the Greens have to say, but I think they do have a role to try and hold us to account for you know, fossil fuels and anything else that might be heating up the planet, rather than diving into these ridiculous things, as you say, about legalizing drugs. I mean, crikey, we have enough problem with drugs anyway, and all the other bits and pieces, which are a complete distraction. And I'm sure Caroline Lucas and those who actually did a pretty okay job, I think, must be tearing their hair out that they've let this chap take control.
Yeah. And, you know, he does appeal. There is a sort of cohort, I suppose, of particularly young people at the moment who I despair about, to be honest, who have no experience of life, who've been at sort of university and in school for most of what they've done. Many of them coming out with these kind of slightly ideological views of, you know, tax the rich. You know, why would anybody need more than £10 million? If they've got more than that, just take it all off them. You know, why do you need more than one house? You know, we should be taking the houses back and putting, you know, asylum seekers in them. Let's not have any borders. Let's just have open borders. And, you know, it's all rather kind of, you know, common room stuff. You know, let's all make love, not war. You know, great, and it's lovely, but, you know, it's not going to actually help anybody run a serious country. And I worry actually that with Keir Starmer in charge and with what's rapidly unfolding inside of Downing Street, we're not really a serious country anymore.
Well, I think you're right. This sort of utopic view that he professes, and as you say, some impressionable youngsters who spend too much time with their heads stuck in their phones, you know, believing some of this stuff. You know, quite frankly, it's impossible these days to work out what's AI and what's not. But I agree. I think the fundamental thing to me, and I did allude to it in my, you know, we've got 650 MPs now. I naively thought when I first got involved in politics after I left the army sort of 14 years ago, that the best 650 men and women in this country were MPs. Well, you know, Zach Polensky is underlining that absolutely they're not. And I think also what we're seeing in the Epstein and Mandelson thing at the moment is absolutely not. There are a lot of people who are doing our bidding in Parliament who, quite frankly, are not fit to. But that is probably our fault as well. And I think the first thing is, you know, is to try and get the 650 people into Parliament running the country, and we'd probably be a more serious country, as you're suggesting. I still, as a soldier and still a serving reservist, have absolutely 100% faith in this country and the nation. And I think, it's inherent that those of us who still feel like that make sure that our voice is heard, rather than I dare to use a word that I'll be harangued for, but those crazies on the ultra far left who are trying to drag us into some utopia that just doesn't exist.
No, quite. Because, there are many people, and serious people, I would suggest, who worry about the state of the world at the moment, and who worry about, the various conflicts that are going on. Iran is still, a huge problem. Gaza still hasn't really been sorted out. Ukraine, there's still no near a solution, it seems to me. How do you see the next few months or 2026 developing in the world of defence and in the world of peace, if you like?
Well, we're in such a time of instability, and also having leaders, like Trump and Xi and Putin, who one just feels, it's not about trusting them. You just don't know what they're going to do next. And that creates further instability. And I think, the biggest threat to this country at the moment is what's happening in Europe, what's happening in Ukraine. And Trump is looking at Zelensky and Epstein and Polanski rather, and Epstein, and all his dreams are coming true. Absolutely, it's playing entirely into his hands. And the war in Ukraine is barely talked about at the moment, despite the fact that every night, people are being killed, the lights are being turned off. It's minus 20 degrees centigrade, and everybody knows that if Russia prevails, I say everybody knows, everybody who's looking at it carefully, who understands a little bit about geopolitics, that if Putin does prevail in Ukraine, then we are going to absolutely be involved in the struggle for Europe, and we need to focus on that. And finally, on this bit, Mike, we learned today, there's a very good piece in the Telegraph today, that Russia is spending half of its government's output on defence. We are spending 2.2% on defence. When one looks at intent and all the rest of it, that is an intent by Putin to keep going and keep the struggle going. Whereas we are there's so many other issues that are focusing people in Westminster and focusing the Prime Minister at the moment, that quite frankly, they might be terrible. The Epstein thing and Mandelson thing is terrible. But actually, his main job, I feel, at the moment is prevent a wider war in Europe. And, he's barely spending any time on that at all. So that concerns me. I'm less concerned about China and what they're doing, because I think Trump realizes that that's his main piece to play. But absolutely, we've got to ensure that the war doesn't extend in Europe. And the only way to do that is to make sure that we have a credible conventional defence, deterrent, if you like, that Putin respects. But at the moment, that's just not the case.
No, indeed. Hamish, great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Hamish de Bretton Gordon, they're very, very much a specialist in chemical weapons, a former army man, of course, as well, a veteran of many years, and as he said, I think a fifth generation soldier. So you could listen to him when he needs to talk common sense about what to do, particularly when it comes to NATO. Coming up, we're going to be, sorry?
I've got a nice picture for you coming on screen.
Oh, right, got a picture coming up from Pooch. What is that? Oh, there it is. There's Mike Tyson with the dove. He found it. That's taken when he was a very young man, before he became heavyweight champion of the world. It was taken up in the Catskills where he lived with a guy called Customato, who was his trainer. And it was, funnily enough, when Customato died, a couple of years after that he kind of went off the rails, because he was almost like his kind of, father figure. So fascinating. Mike Tyson there, that was a long time ago. We did it for the Today newspaper, I think, at the time, which tells you how old I am. We've got a poll going out. Where should Mandelson be banished to? And as a result of a typo, we've ended up with a slightly different destination than we were expecting. It was supposed to be St. Helena, the island, where Napoleon was exiled, of course. It was supposed to be Gaza, Rwanda, Chagos and St. Helena, but it turned out to be Gaza, Rwanda, Chagos and St. Helens. which of course is in the north of England, which is nothing like St Helena at all. It's probably a bit windier and colder. But anyway, Gaza is apparently the #1 spot where you'd like to send Peter Mandelson. 54% of you saying that. Over 5,500 people voting. Rwanda 22%, Chagos 16%, and just 7%. And I'm sure this will be right because people in St Helens have suffered enough. They don't need Peter Mandelson to join them. Now, before we talk to Gawain Towler, who's our next guest, and Nick Freeman's coming up a little bit later on, and also the guys from the Bubble team are here. Chris Walkie and his son Oliver. We're going to be doing a bit of tasting later on as well. So there's a lot to squeeze in between now and sort of, 9:45. It looks like we might overrun the 9:30 timing scenario. Let's have a look at a couple of other clips that we haven't played you yet. This is Kemi Badenoch on forcing Keir Starmer to come clean yesterday.
Jeffrey Epstein, convicted paedophile, and Peter Mandelson continued to call this man his best pal, despite him being convicted of child prostitution. The real question is, how could the Prime Minister have appointed him our ambassador after all that? Labour tried to pull the wool over your eyes. Tonight, Conservatives forced Number 10 to come clean. We won. Despite the Prime Minister's best efforts, the government won't be marking its own homework or hiding behind something as vague as international relations. Starmer wanted secrecy because secrecy is his shelter. The Prime Minister signed off this appointment. This was not an accident. It was a choice. And the Prime Minister did not have the backbone to say no to his Chief of Staff and Mandelson protege, Morgan McSweeney. Maybe he just didn't care. That is not leadership. We are forcing the truth to come out, and we will make the Prime Minister own every line of it. And someone needs to lose their job for this.
Well, let's hope it's Keir Starmer, at the very least, amongst many, and hopefully maybe Rachel Reeves goes with him. Have a look at this, though, because just before we speak to Gawain Towler, this is Lord Falconer, right, who was, again, one of the very many people who were part of the original New Labour project. He, of course, was the barrister, a very highly paid barrister, who had both, not just Tony Blair, but also Cherie Blair as his kind of proteges in his law firm in the chambers that he occupied just off the Temple in London, very near to Fleet Street. He was asked about Peter Mandelson yesterday. This is how he reacted.
Lord Falconer, while I have you, and as a senior member of the Labour Party, I do want to ask you about Lord Mandelson.
Well, do you mind if I don't go there?
Well, I thought you might say that.
Yeah.
No, I do kind of mind, because I know that you know him quite well.
Yeah.
You obviously worked with him during New Labour.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you into the specifics, but I do want to talk to you about the way that this is impacting our politics at the moment.
Do you mind if
Do you mind if I don't go there? Yeah, I do, actually. I mean, the guy from Sky was way too polite there. Yeah, I do mind. You know, you've been in the public pay for many, many years. He's now in the House of Lords, obviously, so still technically taking money from the taxpayer. And he doesn't want to talk about his good friend, Peter Mandelson, soon not to be Lord Mandelson. I'm sick to death of the way that some of these politicians think that they can just dodge questions and decide what ones they wish to answer. Let's talk to Gawain Towler, who is, of course, formerly a very, very big player in the Reform setup. Now, I think still associated with Reform. Gawain, I don't know whether I've got a title for you. How would you describe yourself?
I was elected to the party board, so I suppose, yes, I still have a role in the party.
Yes, I think you're being very humble there. I think you've probably got more than a role, haven't you?
But I'm currently sitting in Newport, waiting for the launch of our Welsh election campaign.
Yeah.
So yes, very much so, very engaged.
Well, I've just been, I don't know if you were able to listen to the show earlier, but Jamie Jenkins was on a little bit earlier telling us that 1 in 4 Labour voters say they will never vote Labour again.
Yeah, but people always say that when they're annoyed with the party at a time of government. I'll never vote Tory, I'll never vote Labour. They do many times. It's a very visceral, in the last few weeks I'm really annoyed. I'll never have another drink again. I've had that dreadful hangover.
Right.
People do have a drink again. They often. So I take that with a pinch of salt, though it's what they're telling the pollsters. Labour they can't recover right now, and there's no way. The idea that Starmer could go into a general election is for the birds. Even if he survives this, he is so unpopular. You can't lead a party into a general election when I mean, there are mass murderers who are more popular than Keir Starmer. So it's for the birds. Now, does he survive this one? He will no doubt lay down his friends for his life. In the case of Morgan McSweeney, but if he does that, there's no bullet catchers left. It's a little bit like when Liz Truss got rid of Kwasi.
Yeah.
Once she did that, she was toast. And in a similar way, getting rid of Morgan McSweeney, there is nobody to collect the bullets. So I can't see him surviving.
No.
I think what we need is a couple of Labour ministers. I was going to say honourable Labour ministers, but just let's say Labour ministers who resign.
Yeah. I mean, somebody needs to move, don't they? Because that's what happened with Boris Johnson in the end, that night when suddenly Rishi Sunak... Rishi Sunak handed in his notice, shortly followed by somebody else. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Jeremy Hunt. And suddenly it was all over. And I think the same thing. I think it will happen as well, because I think the trouble is for Starmer, he can't blame it all on Morgan McSweeney, because at the end of the day, he's the guy in charge. He's the guy who makes the final decision. He could have said no to Peter Mandelson, but he didn't.
No, but he initially seemed to have wanted George Osborne. Hey ho.
Not a sentence that's said very often.
No, it is an absolute mess, and it is of their own making. It really is. But it is. Mandelson has been a slightly curdled thread running through the stick of rock that is the Labour Party for decades.
Yeah.
He is a man of immense ability, but a man of immense flaws. And like many people who are able, they cannot see their own flaws. And that has been part of the problem.
Right. But also, I think part of the problem has been the willful kind of, shall we say, turning of a blind eye by all of the senior people in the Labour government, both Tony Blair's government, Gordon Brown's government, and now Keir Starmer's government. They all knew. I mean, when Starmer got up yesterday and gave this kind of, very nervous version of himself.
And Tammy did a good job.
He did a great job. I mean, this has been good. It's been a good couple of weeks for her. But, for him to say, he's betrayed us, he's betrayed the country, he's betrayed the party, they knew what he was like. It's not, it's a bit like saying, we hired Mike Tyson to be a bouncer on a nightclub and he hasn't killed someone. Of course that's what's going to happen.
It is, but I think it also reflects the dearth of talent in Labour. They needed somebody to go to Washington to represent the country with the mercurial White House. And they looked around and they had nobody. There was nobody who could do that job. And then in many ways, if it wasn't for this dark side to Mandelson, he could do that job. And it's not just, if you look at the commentary after he was appointed, or while he was being appointed to Washington, it's not just Labour people. It's not just the Labour hangers-on who were saying things like that. And I'm personally, I think I did myself. I didn't know about this stuff, and he is an able man. I think at the time I thought, well, given what's in the cupboard, and given the importance of our relationship with America, then he would be a good choice. Not knowing some of this background.
Right. But they could have just stuck with the woman who was doing a very good job,
well,
as it was.
Was a very good. She was a very good ambassador. But that they decided not. But he wanted a political appointment. Karen Pierce was a diplomatic appointment.
Yeah, well, that was his first mistake, wasn't it? Because politics clearly isn't his strong suit.
Well, it doesn't seem to be, does it? There again, that clip you had of Charlie Faulkner. The only thing I can remember about Charlie Faulkner, apart from employing Cherry Blair and Tony Blair in the early days, is his wallpaper choices.
Yes.
And
very expensive.
One wonders whether Mr. Mandelson was involved in that with his aesthetic sense. I don't know. It's astonishing that a senior Labour figure just went, "I'm not talking about that." One doesn't get to do that.
No.
And if you do, you come across as deeply shady, as Charlie Faulkner just came across as.
Yeah.
But I know, going back to the main point, Basically, what it takes is one or two ministers to say, that's it. We personally do not want to be tainted by a prime minister and a government and a regime that has failed so catastrophically, not just in its party policy platform over the last 1.5 years, the 15 U-turns, but also at a personal level, at a complete incapacity to understand how the country feels. And that, I think, is where Starmer has got it completely wrong. Problem is, of course, Starmer's just blocked Andy Burnham from standing for election. And honestly, you've got Angela Rayner. She's also got her problems with tax affairs.
Yeah.
And you've got Wes Streeting, and I don't think Wes Streeting is going to survive the next election, looking at the voting in his own constituency. So it becomes very, very difficult to see anybody who can replace, seriously, who can replace it.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. There isn't anyone. I mean, the whole party is bereft.
This is why Mandelson was appointed, because they have so few people of any talent and any ability to represent either the people of this country or this country abroad. It's very, very tough. I suppose you could make David Lammy, but then you'd have a by-election. You could make David Lammy
mastermind.
He's a great friend of JD Vance, isn't he?
Don't ask him any questions. Yeah, he got him fined for fishing when he didn't have a permit to do it. One final one for you, Gawain. Piece in the Mail today. Nigel Farage has done a documentary with Laura Kunsberg on whether reform is ready to rule, and he says we're halfway there. Sounds a bit optimistic, doesn't it?
No, I think that's reasonable. The amount of work I'm seeing and being done in the background is significant. But of course, we're not going to trumpet it all over the place because we don't have to. We have to stress test it. We look at it. But there's an awful lot of work going on, both on how to deliver and also the policy itself. But it would be mad of us to announce policy 3 years out from a general election. But great, nobody does that. But are we ready today? If there was an election today, we'd win it. And I'm sorry to say, we'd make an absolute hash of it. We would. I mean, of course we would. And that's not. I think people are bored and fed up of politicians pretending to know more than they do. Labour came in. Everybody knew they were going to be in government 2 years beforehand, except them.
Yes.
And they didn't have a plan. Sue Gray didn't have a plan. Nobody had a plan.
Well, I mean, I think the great illustration of Sue Gray's plan was that she was supposed to forge the first 100 days, and she left before she got there. Day 96, I think it was.
But the point is that you've got to come in. Tony Blair came in with a plan. David Cameron came in with a plan, and we knew that both of those were going to win. They were the last two prime ministers who had a plan, and Nigel Farage is going to come in with a plan because we are acutely aware that this is what we lack, and therefore we are. I wouldn't say Nigel Farage is a swan, but beneath the water he's paddling fast.
Absolutely right. I'm sure he'll thank you for that description. I mean, maybe he will. Gawain, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. We've got massive stuff, loads of stuff going on today, so we have to cut it slightly short. It's coming up to 9:01. We've got much to do between now and 10 o'clock, and we've got a film Plank of the Week as well coming up. Nick Freeman's going to join us. Mr. Loophole is going to tell us about the latest scam that the government's got to try and catch you doing something wrong in your car. We've also got, of course, Chris Walkie here. Mr. Fizz is going to be uncorking a couple of corkers for us as we lean into the weekend slightly early on a Thursday. Lots and lots of you are getting in touch. So many of you watching this morning as well. It's another record number, so thank you very much for that. And we have reached the magic number of 5,000 likes. So I'm afraid, with apologies to people who don't want me to do it, I'll sing you a song before the end of the show as well. Coming up next, though, I think we've got the news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning. It's Thursday, the 5th of February. I'm Edward. Good morning. It's Thursday, the 5th of February. I'm Edward Hughes, and I think I'm going crazy. Yet another glorious day in this sceptred isle. First, Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is back in the spotlight because, surprise, surprise, fresh Epstein file dumps and a cheeky email now apparently confirm that infamous photo with Virginia Giuffre is real. Shocking, I know. The Met Police are reviewing yet another claim he got sent a woman for royal hospitality reasons at Royal Lodge. He's moved out now. presumably to avoid the postman. Meanwhile, Keir, dead man walking Starmer, is busy regretting appointing slimy and treacherous Peter Mandelson as US ambassador after the old spin doctor apparently lied repeatedly about his own Epstein chats. Labour MPs are furious. Parliament's forcing document releases, democracy in action, or just another day of who knew what. Elsewhere, the Bank of England is predictably dithering on interest rates because inflation's playing hide-and-seek with one-off factors. The economy is supposedly gathering pace at the start of 2026. But don't worry, cost of living burdens are still clinging on like a bad ex. Junior doctors just extended their strike for another 6 months. Because nothing says NHS recovery like more walkouts. Didn't they sign a Hippocratic oath to first do no harm? And in other news, Grenfell Tower's finally getting demolished years after the tragedy, which I'm sure feels like closure to the families. Oh, and Palestine Action protesters got acquitted of some charges after breaking into an Israeli defense firm subsidiary. Juries these days, eh? Did you see Pep Guardiola talking about Gaza? What a tool. Truly, what a masterclass in progress. God save the king, or at least save us from the next headline. Cheers, Britain. Same again tomorrow. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Edward Hughes with the news there. Thank you very much indeed. We're going to speak to Nick Freeman in a moment, who is also known as Mr. Loophole. Nick, very good morning to you. Welcome to the new Mike Graham Show. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
I've got to reveal to you, which is what I normally do at this time, Keir Starmer's first tweet of the day. I used to call it his first lie of the day. With all of the things that are going on, with the front pages absolutely chock full of stories about how he's in grave peril, fighting for the future, not only of his party, but of his own prime ministership. He's actually put this tweet out this morning, and this, Nick, for me, sums up the state of Keir Starmer's brain. I love this country. It is the greatest country in the world. We are tolerant, decent and respectful, and unity is our strength. But for too long, proud communities have been failed by politics and left powerless to do anything about it. Our Pride in Place programme changes that. We are giving people the power to build up their communities. We've already invested thousands into communities across Britain. Now we are giving thousands more the opportunity to transform their local area, putting local people in control and building a Britain that works for all. I mean, you'd think he'd literally just woken up from a coma and missed everything that happened yesterday.
I think he's just projecting, isn't he? I think he's just desperate to hang on now. I mean, he'll flip and he'll turn to do whatever he needs to, and there seems to be this inability to accept responsibility for anything.
Yes.
I mean, he appointed Mandelson.
Right.
He knew exactly what he was like.
He could have blocked it, couldn't he?
He might not have known the minutiae, but as you said, you appoint Mike Tyson to be a doorman, you're going to have problems. And he lost his 3 last government jobs, didn't he?
He
Mandelson?
did. And even if you didn't know about the Epstein files and you didn't know what he had done as the business secretary in 2009, giving away severely sensitive information, even just the things he'd done before, you would have thought would preclude him.
But why wouldn't you do reasonable diligence? If you're appointing someone to be the ambassador, it's the highest office outside this country, surely you'd be absolutely scrupulous about all
It's
the
harder to get a
checks.
YouTube account than it is to become ambassador to the United States of America, apparently.
And then, of course, it's not my fault, is it? It's somebody else's fault. I didn't know. The trouble is he needs to know. He needs to accept the responsibility. And I do think this will be his downfall, and it will probably be the downfall of the party.
Yeah.
But the frightening thing is, he's probably the best of the bad bunch, and that's what concerns me.
That is a worry. But let's not forget, I mean, it was only 3 days ago when he said that even though he was Prime Minister, he didn't have the power to strip Mandelson of his title.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out he does have the power, and it turns out he's now saying he's going to do it.
I think
which is typical Starmer, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
He says one thing, and then he U-turns on it.
All the time.
Literally.
Well, I think this is his 14 U-turns so far.
At minimum, easy.
Something like that. Yeah. But, when the first emails were revealed, he said, I think it last September, I still stand by him.
Yes.
That there was not a flinch. He's my man.
Yeah,
I
he wasn't
appointed
kicked
him.
out.
I'm happy with him.
Yeah, and he was not kicked out of the Labour Party.
No.
There was no suggestion that he should leave the House of Lords.
I mean, one wonders, is there some leverage that Mandelson has over him? And I don't know, because it's so bizarre. You think, why isn't he just doing the right thing? Why did he appoint him in the first place? Was this some sort of reward? Was this some sort of sweetener?
Right.
Or is it just complete naivety? I mean, how can you have a prime minister with such ill judgment?
Yes, well, I wonder
leading
about
the
that.
country, that you couldn't write this sort of judgment.
Well, when Kemi Badenoch yesterday asked him, do you still have confidence in Morgan McSweeney, his chief of staff? He gave a very ridiculous kind of answer by any measure, because it wasn't even a politician's answer.
No.
It was the answer of a man who was deluded. He said, well, because he helped me to get elected and he's a very key part of the team, of course I have full confidence in him. And you think, that's not the question, you know.
No.
It really isn't the question.
No. Does he have full confidence in himself?
Well,
that would be a better question.
That would be a good question. Maybe that'll be next week if he's still here. But I mean, as a lawyer, looking into what vetting was done, I find it just not credible that people didn't tell him about some of this stuff, because
Didn't they tell him?
I don't believe that somebody in government in 2009 as business secretary, a senior member of the cabinet, could actually communicate what you would expect to be matters of national interest, matters of financial sensitivity, without somebody in the security services knowing about it.
Well,
surely they must have known.
They must have known, and I understand that he was told on the QT that there are red flags here, you need to be very careful with your appointment.
Yeah.
And if that's right, that's why I wonder, is there more to this than we currently know about?
Yeah.
Because this investigation is going to keep on giving and giving, isn't
Yes,
it? I mean,
I think so.
Mandelson's got serious problems now. I mean,
well, he has.
It's almost. I don't want to prejudice any investigation, but it's almost like insider dealing. It's almost like tipping off.
Well, somebody said to me yesterday, in order for a charge of insider dealing to be made and a conviction to be got, you don't even have to have made any money.
No, not
you just
at all.
have to have
Not
given
at
away
all.
the information.
But you know, Mandelson's already gone on record and says, I have no recollection of these 3 payments totaling £75,000.
Right.
And if you look at the dates of the email, I think it was 2009, then you look at the dates of the payment.
Yes.
The following year to his boyfriend or you know, for a course he didn't complete, an osteopathy course that he didn't actually complete. Did he reimburse the money? Did he give it back? Say, thank you very much, I don't actually need that, I'm not doing the course now. No.
It's all terribly grubby, isn't it?
It's very
and
smelly.
I suspect there'll be more people kind of drawn into the web as well. And there may well be other people that Mandelson was sharing information with who we don't know yet.
Well, I also think it's very interesting across the pond. There must be some very twitchy people there.
Yes.
Because the people who are named, I mean, I don't know whether you've seen the interview with, I think it's Melinda Gates.
Yeah.
And there's calls from Congress for all the people that are named, all the high-profile people, obviously including Andrew, to give evidence, sworn evidence, in front of the Congressional Committee.
Yes, and now that the Clintons have relented, because they originally said they weren't going to.
I think Gates is going to have to.
Gates is going to have to. I think we've got a clip actually of Bill Gates today talking this week about the allegations that were made against him. Have a look.
Knew a lot of very rich people, and he was saying he could get them to give money to global health. You know, in retrospect, that was a dead end, and I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him.
You've no doubt seen the allegations, including some of them from the last 24 to 48 hours. Are they true?
No, apparently Jeffrey wrote an email to himself. That email was never sent. The email is, false. So I don't know what his thinking was there. It just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I, apologize that I did that.
The problem is some of the things that he has sent and some of the information about other people that has come up in those files has been true. Why would he do this and say this about you, do you think?
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
So Bill Gates there saying that, yes, he did know Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, he did meet him. He didn't go to the island. He didn't have any dealings with any women. He didn't do any of the things that he's supposedly accused of doing. So why doesn't he just go ahead and speak to the Congressional Committee?
He's going to have to.
And say it under oath.
Well, he'll be subpoenaed.
Yeah.
He will be subpoenaed. They'll all be subpoenaed if they don't go in. Obviously, from Andrew's perspective, they can't force him there.
No.
And as a lawyer advising him, my advice would be
not to go.
Don't go anywhere near. Don't speak to anyone. Don't do anything.
Yeah.
But all the people in America, they're going to have to go, and it's going to be fascinating.
But the interesting thing about Andrew's sort of situation is that the more he doesn't cooperate, the more guilty he looks. Therefore, the worse it looks for the royal family, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, did the royal family act soon enough? And there's questions now that the Queen and the royal family knew what he'd been up to. But what were they supposed to do?
Right.
I mean,
but again,
and
I said this yesterday, I feel as though the Queen, and who is probably the most loved member of the royal family of all time, probably was told by Andrew and maybe others that if you make this payment to this woman, that'll be the end of it.
But he's so naive.
But that didn't happen.
No. And who knew that all these 3 million, and there's a lot more to come, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's many more papers to come.
Yeah.
So this is going to keep on giving and giving. So he's stuck, isn't he? Andrew's stuck now because of the interview with Emily Maitlis, where not only was it a car crash, but everything that he said is now proven to be a lie. So he has zero credibility. So he literally has to just shrink away and go and hide, doesn't he?
He does, but the more that goes on, the worse it reflects in a way on his brother the King, doesn't it?
I think Charles the King is going to have to come out and say, listen, we didn't know this. There's going to have to be a positive statement, isn't there? Because without it, people are going to infer, actually, it's a cover-up by the royal family.
Yeah.
And they don't want that. Did they act soon enough? Why did the Queen give £12 million to a woman when... I remember at the time saying, if Andrew's right and he hasn't done anything, well, go and fight it.
Yeah, right.
All along, he should have just said, I don't propose to dignify these comments. I'm not getting involved. I know nothing about it. But once he did that interview, he's that's
the problem, isn't it?
That's it. He's now...
It's
he
Piers
can't
Morgan's
recover from
famous phrase is he's invaded his own privacy. So therefore, we can now carry on with the rest of it.
Yeah. So that he's got nowhere to turn, I'm afraid. And he's the author of his own misfortune, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, some might say perhaps he should have thought more about that when he was engaged in this kind of behaviour, which might have come back to haunt him, Randy
Andy. Yeah. But he was at one stage, if you remember, the most eligible bachelor in the world. Yeah. And I think he just lacked guidance. He obviously hasn't got much common sense. He's obviously very arrogant.
He's very arrogant,
incredibly arrogant, and even just his facial expressions exude arrogance, don't they? When he's on his horse, people take exception to it because he just looks so arrogant and defiant that he can't help that, really. But I think he's had very poor advice. I don't understand how anyone with any understanding of what would happen when you're being interviewed like that, even if it's not under caution, a live interview, to let him go anywhere near it was suicide. It was kamikaze, wasn't it? It was kamikaze.
And of course, he famously left the interview thinking it had gone rather well. And you kind of go, sorry, what?
What was it? I remember this day well because I went for a pizza in Pizza Express or somewhere, so I remember it very well. And not being able to explain the photograph, the arm round, and I have this problem where I don't sweat. And if you listen to what I've just watched the Epstein files, fun enough, the Epstein on Netflix, and she gives a very graphic account of how he was sweating over her. So he's just a liar, isn't he? I'm afraid he's just a liar, a proven liar, and he's dug a hole for himself, and there's no ladder to get out of it.
No, absolutely not. Mr. Loophole is your nickname. It's a nom de guerre, perhaps. Let's talk finally just a little bit about the motoring business.
Okay.
Both Pooch and I were moaning the other day about the ridiculousness of driving now and how expensive it's become and how slow you have to go everywhere. And the most recent thing seems to me to be the sort of the advent of mass numbers of temporary traffic lights.
Well,
what's going on?
What happened is during COVID, all non-essential work stopped.
Yeah.
That was it. They drew a line under it.
Yeah.
And so all the utility companies, water, gas, electric, Wi-Fi companies, they're all paying catch up.
Right.
And what's fascinating is that that they have to do the work. They're being pressurised to do the work. Each company has to pay a separate permit fee. So the council actually gets the benefit of a fee. There's no pressure in terms of time. So you might have the same stretch of road dug up 4 times.
Yeah.
And what they say is the traffic lights are safer than using a man or a woman or a person to regulate the traffic.
Yeah.
So it's under the guise of safety. So it's sort of urban congestion, urban gridlock under the guise of traffic safety management, which is complete nonsense. So they're making money out of it. They're not encouraging them to get on with it.
Right.
And there's no coordination.
Is there a rule about when they're allowed to work on it? So, for example, when I came in this morning, I go through 2 temporary traffic lights. There's nobody working at all.
No. And once the council's got the permit fee, there is no pressure, no incentive on them at all to make sure that the job is done and done quickly. So that's it. All they want is they want the money, and it's a nice little earner for them. And then it's up to the gas company or utility company to do what they want. They're not under pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, as with all roadworks, there should be a 24/7 operation.
Yeah.
That's it. It should just be, we've got this contract, this is how much we're going to be paid for it, and we're working 24/7 till it's finished.
Right.
And when you do see people working, that they're in the van, they're having a sandwich, they're having a coffee, and that's why drivers are so frustrated, because they're sitting gridlocked. They can't move.
Yeah.
And if there is someone there, they're not working.
Yeah.
And it's just really frustrating, isn't
Yeah.
it? Particularly when you think of the amount of money we pay to actually try and get from A to B.
Well, particularly that, yeah. But people driving through London are paying sometimes as much as 25, 35
Well,
quid.
congestion charge, I think it's going up to
It's
18.
gone up to 18 quid.
It is 18
It
now.
is, and if you're coming in paying another charge of ULEZ or something like
Yeah.
that, that's another 12 or so.
Yeah.
Suddenly you're paying 30 quid a day to
Just for the privilege of sitting in gridlock traffic.
Yeah.
And then you've got your parking.
Oh, don't talk to me about parking. We've got a parking issue here, actually, funnily enough, which I just got 3 tickets for. I might have to hire you to get out of it, because I think there might be another 20 coming. But there we are. Great to see you, Nick. Thank you very much
Thanks,
indeed,
Mike.
Nick Freeman.
Thank you.
Mr. Loophole, of course, the man who has got all manner of knowledge about what happens when you drive a car and you get into trouble with it. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking to him again very soon. Coming up, we've still got things to do that we haven't done, including Plonk of the Week. Because Chris Walkey's here with his son Oliver. They're going to be opening a couple of pleasant fizzy type drinks that we're going to try out and see whether we can recommend them to you. But perhaps what we should do in the meantime, before we do that, is play another little clip. What we haven't played yet is Graham Linehan. Pooch, I wonder if we should play that. He's been over in America speaking to a congressional committee about free speech in Britain.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Graham Linehan. I spent 30 years writing comedy for British television. It was a career I loved, but it ended when I began noticing that women were losing their livelihoods, their social circles, and even their freedom for defending rights won over 100 years ago by the suffragette movement. I looked into what these women were saying and could find nothing wrong with any of it. They believed, as I do, that single-sex spaces are essential for women's privacy, dignity, and safety. They believe that children should not undergo experimental medical treatment that ravages their health and shortens their lives. They believe that women have a right to fair sport. These were not extreme positions, but for holding them, I became the target of a series of harassment campaigns that cost me my career, my marriage, and eventually drove me from my homeland. For a decade, the British police have harassed me for expressing views that the majority of the public share. In 10 years, not one person, not the police who arrested me, not the colleagues who condemned me, not the friends who turned away, has told any of us what we did wrong. Our accusers do not deal in arguments. No one is able to point to the flaws in our analysis. We have simply been punished for objecting to fashionable yet incoherent orthodoxies.
Graham Linehan there talking in America about the terrible, terrible situation around free speech in this country because, of course, I'm afraid what you might not be surprised to hear is that the Americans think we don't have free speech in this country anymore because of the way that people are getting prosecuted, like Lucy Connolly and the story that we got this morning, which proves basically that Lucy Connolly did have a massive campaign forged against her by the government, by particularly Lord Hermer, who is the Attorney General, who basically tried to fast-track her prosecution and to make sure that at the end of that prosecution, she did, in fact, go to jail. Absolutely extraordinary. One more video to play out. Which one are we doing, Pooch?
A bit of a joke, Mandy one.
Oh, there's a joke Mandy video to play. OK, I don't think I've seen this one. Let's have a look. It's not bad, is it? Very funny. Keir Starmer and, of course, Peter Mandelson. One of them is out of a job. The other one will soon be out of a job. And good riddance to them, is what I say. I'll sing you a song later because we did say if we got to 5,000 likes, we will do a song, which I will do. But I'm not going to do it yet because I'm going to wait until I've had something to lubricate my throat. So here's Chris Walkey with Plonk of the Week. Chris, very good morning to you. Thanks for coming in. Good to see you.
Should we get started?
I think we should, yeah, because we've already run over slightly on the old length of the show because the show's supposed to end in 6 minutes, but it's not actually obviously going to end in 6 minutes.
Taste explosion I'm going for today.
Oh, really?
All sorts of things you've got on this show.
Excellent.
We're going to start off with the supermarket wine, which was £8.50 at Morrison's.
Very good.
It's barefoot It's Barefoot Wine. It's their buttery Chardonnay. They say that 56% of
You've been thinking about Mendelssohn again, haven't you?
UK consumers recognise this brand. It's one of the most, widely recognised brands.
Yes,
Barefoot.
I do recognise that.
I've
yeah.
never tasted
Where's
this.
it from?
It's American, so
California,
it is
eh?
Californian, and it's the
Yeah.
Chardonnay, obviously.
Okay.
Let's give it a go and see what it's like. Is it worth £8.50?
That's quite pleasant.
It's not. It does the trick. Doesn't it?
I mean, it's not normally this sort of time. I mean, I know that we've been doing this for a while now, but I don't normally taste wine first at this time in the morning. I've just had a sip of coffee, and so it's quite unusual to taste a bit of Chardonnay. But it's quite pleasant.
It does
It
the
is
trick.
buttery.
It is buttery. It's nice fruitiness to it. Nice floral. It's silky.
Yeah.
It's the ticker box there. £8.50. I think that does the trick.
I mean, I think for a lot of people, that's probably more than they might spend on a bottle of wine, but it's not ridiculous money, is it?
It's not. And at the end of the day, it's a decent Californian wine there. You can't knock it, really. It's untold medals to its name, and it's highly recognisable, I think. Pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
Good. And I mean, I know you don't normally do this, so I probably shouldn't ask you, but if you were going to have something to eat with that, because you brought the cheese in. I know Pooch has banned you bringing things into it.
Yes.
Hasn't he? Because he doesn't like hearing me chewing, which is probably no bad thing. But I imagine a nice cheddar cheese or something with that.
Yeah,
would be
I
good.
mean, something lighter, white meats, maybe fish, a salad, pasta
Yeah.
dish, something like that would go quite nice. Especially
Okay.
fish would go well with the Chardonnay.
Okay.
You wouldn't be wanting to put a red wine with something like that.
Because I've,
So,
I've got some chicken to cook later on, so I
Wow,
might,
you
I
could
might take that and
drop
have
a bit of that in the pan,
that
however
in
you're
the
cooking
pan,
it.
yeah.
Put it with it, and then have a glass whilst you're cooking. It would be like Keith Floyd used to do. You know,
it. I do that a
glass
lot,
of
actually,
wine.
funnily enough. That's how it all starts. You know?
Yeah.
When I start
It all
cooking
starts.
and then start having a glass of wine, you drop the chicken on the floor like Fanny Craddock used
That's
to do.
it.
Pick
Who
it up.
cares less?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
Right,
cares
should
less?
I pour that in there?
Yes, well, that's very disciplined. That's
it is very
interesting.
disciplined.
Yeah. The next one we're going to go for Boo Hoo. It's alcohol free, but hey,
Oi.
we have to. This is Jaeger Geiger, but it's quite interesting. This is a pear and gooseberry juice blend. Yeah, it's herbs and spices, including caraway, fennel, from the mountain range in Baden-Württemberg, Germany. So there's quite a lot to
There it is.
but it's different. You're going to...
Is that right? Oh, you want it in front of my
There
face?
we go.
Sorry, like that. There we go.
But the aromas, you're going to smell the aromas, you're going to go, oh,
Germany, handmade
that's
in
different.
Germany.
That's different. You're going to smell the aromas and you can give it a taste, and it's
Okay.
certainly going to be a different experience.
I'm not sure what that smells of. What's it meant to smell of?
I mean, it's herbal. It's very herbal. Herbal style. Maybe a bit of spearmint I can taste there, things like that.
It's not unpleasant, actually.
It's not bad, is it? It's
It's
not
got a
bad.
little
It's not
zest
bad.
to it. Virgin long drink, it says. Echt.
£12.90 for this little bottle here.
£12.90?
£12.90. Yes, it is. But you know, we're looking at the
Gotten Himmel, as some people would say.
It's quite a unique bubbly.
It
Let's
is
put
quite a
that
unique
way.
bubbly. I
Yeah.
don't mind that, actually.
I don't mind it at all, actually. But alcohol free, okay, you know, it's a bit boring, but hey.
Yes. If you're in a situation, I mean, last Friday, for example, we went out and tried a new pub, and because I was driving, I just had a can of non-alcoholic beer. Because I just think, you know, if you're going to drive, there's no point pretending.
No.
You know, you can only have one. How about you don't have any?
It's better, yeah. Especially with you, the amount of, you're working up early in the morning, you just,
So I'll
get
dump
that.
that.
So the
Yeah,
next
okay.
one, we're going to pop over to Italy here. 100% Braccetto Lungo dessert wine. So Piedmont region, dessert wine, £16 a bottle we're looking at here.
All right.
But we're going to have a sweeter kind of character. We're going for a red bubbly, and I know a lot of your viewers want to see more red bubbly on the show.
Yeah.
So we're going to go for a different
Very
style.
effervescent as well.
Going to be a much creamier kind of candy sweets on the nose.
It's quite sweet, isn't it? I don't mind it, though.
Quite nice.
I
isn't
mean,
it?
a sweet
Yeah.
wine, would you say, is that normally something you would have with a dessert? Or
it would be,
Or
wouldn't
just
it?
without food at all? You'd just be
Well, I
having it
could
as a
drink
kind
this without food. I actually enjoy this one. It's half, I think it's about 6.5% alcohol. 6.5 it is. But it would go nicely with some desserts. Maybe something like a fruit cake, you know, red berry fruits in there. It would tone down the kind of sweetness.
Okay.
But I think this is pleasant enough to drink on its own, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
that is quite nice,
You
yeah.
know.
Because I'm not really, generally speaking, a fan of red sparkling.
I know you mentioned before, yeah.
But maybe that's because if they try and make it too dry, it doesn't really work.
No.
Whereas with its sweetness, it's actually
Yeah, the
quite pleasant.
Dulce Secco style. So if it's something sweet,
Do you want to see this one, Pooch? This is quite nice. Malvira. So where's it from?
This is Italian, so
Italiano.
northern Italy. Yeah.
It's from Canale, it says. Prodotto in Italia. Burbet. Is that right? Burbet? Is that how they would say it?
Burbet. Malvira is the producer. So what we're going to try now is we're going to keep a little bit of this in here. Yeah?
Okay.
Oliver's going to do us a very quick cocktail because they suggest to put in another bubbly into this, another one of their bubblies. We're going to try this.
Rive Gauche.
Yeah, so this is a Spumante. We're going to put that in there.
All right.
Like that.
And so this would make it drier?
Let's find out. We're going to give it a go. We're going to have this Spumante in there. We're going to have some... So I'll put them in.
There we go.
We're going to put a little bit of gin in there as well.
A bit of gin.
A little bit of gin. That's it, yeah. We're going to have a nice big dollop there of...
Steady. I mean, he's now starting to throw it over me now. Not I think I need the protective goggles now. Right. What's that? Is that mint?
And mint, yep.
Mm. It smells nice.
Mm. It's drier, isn't it? Much drier when you taste it.
Actually, I prefer that to the original on its own.
Yeah.
You
prefer that?
I prefer
it's
this.
a bit easier. It's not
it's
as
not
sweet.
quite so sweet.
I agree.
And I think my palate is more attuned to something drier. It's quite sort of dry now. So the sweetness has disappeared, and the tartness has come in because of the lemon or the lime, and the mint. It's kind of it's sharper. I would say.
It's sharper.
Rather good.
Refreshing.
It's certainly refreshing. I think refreshing is the word we're looking for.
Refreshing is definitely the word.
Definitely the word we're looking for. Yeah.
Lovely.
We have one wine question for you, Mike.
Oh yes.
Who's the most influential person you've enjoyed a glass of wine with?
That's a good question.
Ooh, most influential person. Well,
Donald Cloud.
Well,
noisiest, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to attend a party in the summer time when I worked for the Murdoch organisation, and there was always an awful lot of very, shall we say, famous people and quite influential people at that, including the Prime Minister. And I think on two occasions, one was Rishi Sunak, one was Keir Starmer.
Nice.
Kemi Badenoch, I suppose you could count her.
Yeah.
And obviously some of the sort of very important media people, like I was introduced to somebody called Elizabeth once by Chris Evans. This is when it starts to sound ridiculous, because I was with Chris Evans, obviously. And we were walking down the stairs, and it was a beautiful sort of party scene in a garden where they have the Murdoch party every year. And we walked past this rather attractive-looking woman who was talking to another woman, and we stopped and talked to them. And Chris said to me, "Do you know Elizabeth?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." And she said, "Oh, hi, Mike," and she knew who I was. Anyway, we walked away and turned out it was Elizabeth Murdoch.
Okay, wow.
Who obviously is one of the four children who were, given an awful lot of money by their dad.
Awful lot, I can imagine.
And who had the entire, that show, Succession, was based on them. And it was kind of like, well, okay then. Anthony Joshua was there one year as well. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you would call them all influential or anything, but and I once went to the pub. We had him on last week in Greenwich Village, a famous pub called the Slaughtered Lamb, I think it is, in the West Village. Do you know it, Pooch? You might know. And Steve Lillywhite was there because I'd gone to see him. He was producing U2's latest album in Electric Lady Studios, and we went to the pub. And he doesn't drink, so he had a lemonade or something or a Coke, and I had a beer. And as we were talking, his phone was buzzing away, and he was like, "I wish he'd just bloody leave me alone." And I said, "Who's that?" He went, "Bono."
Bono
keeps texting me.
Yeah,
he's not happy with the album. So there's been a few, I suppose.
Yeah, probably too many to
off the top of my head.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So there
nice.
we are. Where's that gone, by the way?
It's over here.
No, I mean the drink.
Oh, I'll put it here. You're one here, so don't worry. It's just a fresh glass.
I can drink that through Plank of the Week, you see.
There's no worries about that.
I've got a message here from Rebecca Butler, who's a lawyer.
Okay.
And she says, and you might like this, Oliver, "What's Brooklyn Beckham doing on your show?" Serving the wine.
Very good. That's really
Have you ever
nice.
been likened to him before?
No, that's the first time.
There you go.
First time.
Well, don't fall out with your father, is all I can say.
No. Well, I can't cross the ball as well, actually. So, next one we're going to go for. So, do enjoy that still.
I like that.
We're going to. You said mead the other day, so we've got a sparkling mead for you
sparkling
from
mead, okay.
Slovenia. So, honey, obviously.
We need a name for that cocktail.
Just honey, mixed water, yeast, chestnut honey.
Did you say move that?
No, we need a name for it.
Oh, a name for it, yeah. Have we got a name for this
That is
cocktail?
called Dude MS. Dude MS. So
Dude.
I couldn't quite dude. So
Well,
dude,
as in
yeah,
phone's
as
ringing
in-
dude? What, you
yeah.
mean as in like...
Possibly, although MS, and we couldn't quite translate that out, and so we just call it Dude. The
Big
cocktail.
Lebowski.
The Dude cocktail.
Yeah.
So the next
The
one we
Dude
got here
abides.
is the honey
Okay.
mead sparkling wine from Slovenia, all the way from Slovenia. It's about 40 to 45
Slovenia, now that's an
pound
interesting
a
place
bottle.
for wine, isn't it? Because that's the former Yugoslavia.
Yeah,
In the sort of
absolutely.
top left-hand corner.
Yep.
Bordering Italy, right?
It is Italy, Austria, Hungary,
Yeah.
Croatia. Yeah.
So are they sort of what you would call an up-and-coming wine country?
Very so. I mean, I've been there quite a few times, and amazing sparkling wines, absolutely amazing, very good, trophy-winning
It's an
wines.
interesting taste. I'm not sure about that.
Right.
What is it again?
It's called Caesar.
Yep.
It's a méthode classique traditionnelle, but it's
It
sparkling mead, basically.
So it's honey wine. It's quite honey wine, very natural.
It's kind of honey tasting a little bit, but let me do that.
What's the alcohol content?
11%. It's quite high, isn't it?
But none, it's very natural, and it's obviously the honey. So here we've tasted a honey sparkling wine. Again, you
It's
either
a
like
very
it or not.
unusual taste.
It's kind of a Marmite, isn't it? You like it or you don't
I
like
think
it.
also because it's coming after this, which is now quite sort of fresh, you know?
So you might need a sip of that.
I'm still
yeah.
going with my favourite. That's my favourite of the
That's
day so
good. That's
far.
staying there.
Right.
So we're going to go on to, because we had a noisy and flamboyant Donald last week.
Yes.
We're bringing a noisy and flamboyant Donald with us onto the show this week.
Trump.
So we've got Trump. We've got Trump. Blonde de Noir 2017.
I tried to look this up actually because there was a link, wasn't there, to the website, but I couldn't get onto the website for some reason. But people will be able to, I'm sure, once they're...
Yeah, it's very difficult to find here. It's not readily available. $65 on the website. It's going to cost you around about £100 a bottle, unfortunately, to get here. But some people
Well, I
want
mean,
to try
Donald
it.
Trump is nothing if not willing to charge you as much as he could possibly get out of you.
Well,
you know.
yeah, and people buying it. So, but it's Eric. Yeah, I think it's his son. That's the president of this winery.
Yeah.
It's a Pinot Noir driven wine, classic champagne style. So we're going to give this a go. And it's from Charlottesville, Virginia. So
Let's do it.
Let's give this a go. Yep. I'm just going to rinse the glass with this to take the flavours out.
Okay.
Like that. That is bubbly, isn't it? That one there. We go.
That is very bubbly, yeah.
I'm just going to do the same. And let's give Donald.
So would this be an American sparkler?
This is absolutely America, yeah.
California?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's
Monticello.
from Charlottesville, Virginia.
Yeah, I was going to say Monticello. I'm pretty
Quite
sure
good.
is the name, I think, of the... it's wrong to call it a stately home, but it's one of their kind of older, what you might call mansions, I suppose, Monticello. I think it's in Virginia.
Yes, it is, yeah. Yeah.
And it was the sort of family home of one of the presidents. I can't remember which
No, I
one.
didn't know that,
I
no.
might have to look it up now that I've said
Interesting.
that. Because I've been there, and it's one of those...
Oh, you have?
It's Jefferson's house, that's
Wow,
right, yeah.
okay.
Thomas Jefferson, one of the sort
Oh.
of founding fathers of
Incredible.
America.
It looks beautiful. The property
It's a
looks
lovely
beautiful.
part of the world.
Yeah.
It's very hot in the summer, though.
So Jonathan Wheeler is the winemaker here at Trump.
Oh, that's nice.
It's a blonde. Yeah, it's a Blonde Noir 2017.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's got a
very
bit of
smooth,
age.
isn't it?
Different style. Different style. We wanted to go for a taste
Have you
of
got some, Pooch? What do you think?
explosion. So
I think that's really nice, actually. That's the nicest sparkling we've had today, I would say.
good. Yeah.
That's great. It's good on the nose before you drink it.
Yeah.
Isn't it lovely?
Yeah.
Well, we've gone through different kind of flavours and styles for today.
Yes.
Keep it interesting.
There it is, yeah.
Wow. Looks nice,
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
it?
a nice day out there. It's near, I think, quite near Richmond, Virginia. I think this is a sort of nearby.
I've not, unfortunately, not been. I can say I've been to Slovenia, which is quite a beautiful country.
Yes, I have. In
Lots
fact,
of grapes growing on.
I was there when it was still Yugoslavia. So old I am.
So is that 91?
Oh, God, no. It was probably
Before.
78, 77
Okay.
or something like that.
Right.
A place called Bled, which is a beautiful little town on a lake. And in the middle of the lake, it's quite famous as that church.
Yeah, the
There's
church,
a church on an island in the middle of the lake.
That is stunning.
It's
that, isn't
beautiful,
it?
yeah.
It really is.
It's funny. It's one of the because it was before the breakup of Yugoslavia. It was a golfing holiday, and things happened on it that I can't describe to you, basically. But I was
What
I
happened
think I
in
was
Slovenia?
16, and my parents and I used to go and be part of this European Press Golf Society, and we would play against this German team. But the Germans were not really journalists; they were all like really wealthy, like newspaper owners and publishers and all that sort of thing. And I remember I had to go from one hotel to another hotel, and I got stopped by the sort of police and asked for my papers, which was a bit of an experience because I didn't have them. You know, 'cause those were the days when you used to go and check into a hotel and they take your passport and put it behind the desk. And hold it for you, you know.
You're going to pay your
And
bill.
this guy, I always just remember he had a giant Alsatian. I was like, they're going to attack me with the dog. But it was all right in the end. Eh?
On screen.
There it is,
that's
yeah.
it.
There it is,
Look at the
beautiful.
backdrop.
Beautiful.
It is. It's stunning there, isn't it? It really is a lovely country. So, and they're making
And all
good
I'll
wine.
say is where I met a woman called Mrs. Georgie, right? Whose husband.
I can get a picture of her.
Yeah, and she had a convertible Mercedes sports car, and we played a round of golf, and then we went for some lunch, and that's all I'm going to tell you.
Well, don't forget, Mrs. Trump is from Slovenia as well.
Of course she is, yeah.
She's Slovenian, so there is.
So maybe she's got some role in procuring some of this stuff.
Who knows? Who knows? But nonetheless, we wanted to finish with a noisy kind of Donald there, because we're missing Donald here. Where is
The
he?
thing about
Where's
Donald
the noise?
is he's a lovely man. He's been a friend of mine for many years, one of my best friends. And when he comes down, you have to take like some time out and recover.
Yeah.
Because he messaged me actually last Friday, and he said when he got home, his wife said, "You look absolutely knackered."
Not surprised. He's drinking the spittoons when he said
Well, yeah,
he was
I
doing
know.
the whole.
Well,
the
this
whole
is a
work.
lot more calm, isn't it?
Don't forget the song, probably.
Like I found her.
And there she is. Yeah, that's about
Oh.
right. Very similar.
Nice motor as well.
Yeah.
That's
there we are.
perfect.
This is Georgie.
Yeah.
Oh, good days.
Good days.
Are,
yeah.
are we ready for the song?
Yeah, well, all I was going to do
Ooh.
was I was going to do the intro to a song which actually most people will know from Goodfellas rather than from actually the original, but it's Sid Vicious's version of My Way. I'm not going to do the quick part, but he starts out like this. And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. My friends, I'm not going to say that. I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I've travelled each and every highway and more. Much more than this, I did it my way. And then it goes into that great punk riff where you're going da 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 da. It's brilliant. It's a great version of My Way.
Excellent. I think people got their value for money there.
There you go.
Absolutely.
5,000 likes. over
Watch
that.
out, Britain's Got Talent.
Well, this has been lovely because that, I think, is a real find.
Great. Well, then.
But you say it's difficult to get here?
It is, yeah, it is.
Do you have to sort of get it shipped from America or something?
I think you need to speak to Kerry there over at Trump Winery and ask whether or not they could send you maybe a couple of cases. But they've got the cost for it all to come over, so it's not available in England. You may find one or two bottles online, but you have to search about a bit. Or know somebody's got a few bottles in their cellar.
Why am I hearing something weird in my ear, by the way? Sorry, I don't know.
It was Sid Vicious My Way. I was just downloading it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we could go out to that, I suppose.
The original version.
Because it is a fantastic version, it really is. Particularly when it speeds up. We're going to go?
It won't. I've just got to download it really quickly.
Well, just let me know. Chris, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant,
sir.
as ever.
Great.
Tell us about where people can find your website.
Yes, certainly. We're at glassofbubbly.com. All things bubbly, information and news for the industry and for consumers to enjoy.
Yes. And I wonder whether Oliver could come and rearrange the bottle so that we can take a nice bottle picture of all the
Sounds
things
good.
that we've got. Because I think that's a really good selection today.
It's different, isn't it? It's different.
Yeah, should we do like a... I don't know. If I'm going to take it this way,
not my way. This
not
way.
my way. Move those,
and we'll come up with a good selection for next week.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, bring that one over here. That's good. And that one can go in the sort of brilliant. There we are. Beautiful. Do you want to take any pictures, Pooch, for the
Yeah, we'll do. Come in.
for the website? I'm just going to take these for the moment.
There we go, and I've got my way set up.
Okay.
Lovely.
It's quite nice. I mean, it's not nice, but given that we can play music now, it's actually quite good, isn't it?
I really like that. I like the Trump champagne.
The Trump champagne's lovely.
Really good, isn't
Yeah.
it? And do one for Steve. Right, lovely.
Good.
Beautiful.
Okay, right. You want to take us out, mate?
Yes. So, it's 9:45, so you've got an extra bonus 15 minutes, thanks to Chris, and thanks to all these lovely drinks. I've put them all out. So we've got a Malvera, which is the
Burbet.
The Burbet,
Yep.
that's the red, quite sweet,
Sweeter
sparkling.
style. Yeah.
You've got the Reeve Ghost, which
Spumante.
is the Spumante, also by the same vineyard in Italy. We've got the Caesar...
honey
mead, which I'm not sure about, to be honest.
Slovenia.
The Trump Blanc de Noir, which actually is lovely, really nice. Get your hands on that if you can, especially if you like Donald Trump. The Barefoot Buttery Chardonnay, and then right at the end, the German non-alcoholic Virgin Long Drink Echt. The less perhaps said about that, the better. Thanks to Chris Wolfe, thanks to Oliver, thanks to Pooch, thanks to Charlotte, thanks to all of you for watching and taking part, and so much to do in the next 24 hours, of course. And we hope and we pray and we do everything that we can to rub Ouija boards and whatever you can get your hands on to get rid of Keir Starmer. You know, is he going to go? He's in grave peril, it says on the little ticker tape running there. Starmer fights for his future. What will happen over the course of the next few hours? We will bring it to you all tomorrow from 7 a.m, of course. Plank of the Week tomorrow night. We're going to film that shortly. Plonk of the Week will go out on Saturday as well. So if you're watching this on catch up, you know, don't worry, you'll have another chance to do it. We'll put out all the bottles that you need for Saturday night at 7 o'clock. And now, the real version of Sid Vicious and My Way.
J'ai le grand honneur de vous présenter, et pour la première fois en France, Sid Vicious.
I can't believe it's my
Fantastic. One of the great songs. Maybe we should do that every show. Finish up with one of my favourite songs. But anyway, listen, brilliant. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to the Walkies who are here, Chris and Oliver. Thank you to Pooch, as I say. Thank you to Charlotte. We're going to film Plank of the Week coming up with Rebecca Butler, with Russell Quirk, and who's the other joiner? I can't remember. Is it Mark Little? It's not Mark Littlewood. It might be. I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll see you soon. Tomorrow morning from 7. Don't forget, don't be a plank.
Remember, despite all of the others out there, it's always the others. Don't be a plank.
Aaron, going into the bin, that's just, it's stupid, but it's hilarious.
It's lovely, yeah. People love it, yeah.
You think, what, this is...
Well, this is the thing. Nobody does it. Nobody does it.
Right, I'm just going to put Rebecca in and say hello.
Yeah.
That looks like that is not possible to read it. Right?
All right.
It's just not
Oh, she's on the phone,
possible.
yeah.
I have got to have a very focused instructions.
That was brilliant.
You know, you just like, for example, you
Yeah.
say stewed.
Yeah, no, this is lovely. We haven't quite worked out when we might change the day.
Yeah, because
we're not sure.
We've got too much going on today because it's the plank of the week.
Yeah, because it's a bit of a rush, but
we're going to change.
We can. What about the
We're thinking we might.
To be honest, Mike.
What about plank of the week? That at one point maybe we come on. We're not overly political, though. We have an opinion which is very similar to everybody on here. Believe you me. But is that something that would add anything or make it?
What do you mean? Come on with the drinks?
Yeah. Like, I mean, we can stay here. We've got no rush to go back. It's up to you. We're not encroaching on what you do.
I mean, that's something we could look at.
Yeah,
hey?
we could look at it. I'm just trying to. So, I mean, today you didn't really drink much, did you?
No.
So, I mean, we could, if we did it like that and just kept it professional, we could do it on a Friday.
Yeah.
Because then we can take the bottles home and drink them.
Yes.
Because the problem is, if we.
I think Friday's a better day.
I think Friday's a good day.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah,
I just think.
Yeah.
I think. If
I think the problem was last week. Donald was here.
Yeah, of course.
And so that's why we all went fucking mad.
It
It was funny. Yeah.
But I think if you're just having a sip and actually doing a proper tasting, then you haven't even had one full glass of wine, really.
What about if you had like one of the end talkers
Can
on the show
you charge that for me?
come
Sorry.
in to sit and enjoy some wines with us, and
Yeah.
we can eat with whoever they are,
Yeah.
or even part of the plank, we can still do something. Just to make
yeah.
it fun. I mean, Russell I know quite well.
Yeah.
For many years.
Listen, it's nice to have somebody else in the mix, no question, you know.
Guys, I'm just trying to loose.
I think we what we need to do though, because as we're going forward and we're getting busier and we're having 13 and a half at one point. We're having to sort of hey Mike, we're having to sort of structure it a bit more. So so I think generally speaking, Friday's a good day for you, right?
It is fine.
It's a better day for you.
No problem whatsoever.
And then there's no reason why whoever's here couldn't take part in it. Whoever the last guest
We're
is.
very happy.
We don't see the things. We don't always have a live guest.
No, yes, on the
So quite often they're on down the line. But I mean, if there's somebody here, there's no reason. And I would be quite happy for you to come in on the planks one day as well.
I've watched it for years. So
Okay. No, well, let's do that.
Yeah.
We'll definitely do that.
We can have a moan about somebody, can't we? So.
Yeah. We could just say, I know now a bonus appearance, blah, 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 and you brought a nice bottle, and just bring one bottle or something.
We could bring one or two.
Rather than doing a taster, and just say, we brought a bottle of Trump's. You've got to try, Mark, I don't know if you want to have a drink at this time in the morning, but...
because it goes out on Friday, you want to make it look like it.
We've got Trump champagne.
Oh, well, I can do champagne in the morning. I probably can't do red wine, right?
We haven't got any red wine, but have a glass of this Trump champagne. It's really nice.
You want to get the gentleman...
This is Mark Littlewood, by the way. Chris Walkie.
How are you?
He's a very, very, very good economist.
Okay, good to meet you.
Have a look at this. What did you say? It was about 60 quid a bottle?
It's 100 quid from our collection. It's 100 quid a bottle. You can't... Really
From Virginia.
$60.
It's Eric Trump who runs it, apparently.
Eric. And they won gold medals with us in London, and he sent us a nice letter, Eric Trump, which is quite amazing, to say thank you.
Did he? Oh, that's nice.
I know, yeah.
That is nice.
Yeah, that was quite something for us as a family business to get the message from Eric Trump.
Absolutely.
But that was a good show. 13k watching. Yesterday's show was incredibly fun. It was so enlightened, such a warm, happy atmosphere.
Yeah.
That show was.
Yeah.
I did think that was
You're blown away the opposition.
one of the best.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's fucking. Did you see
Almost
what?
embarrassing.
But you know what Talk have done though? They've obviously fucking massaged their radar figures. They've come out and said they're up 59% in the last quarter.
Well,
since I left.
I just keep comparing the YouTube figures, which I know is not the totality, but it's a pretty.
No,
good
but it's.
indicator.
I mean, we had 13,500 live today.
And what I talk getting 1.5, 2,000, something like that.
Yeah.
3,000 maybe. And GB News.
Hello, mate. Are you here?
Yeah, I'm outside.
Yeah, I'll send somebody out.
I'll go and get him.
Would you mind? Russell, that's Russell.
Look, there we go. That's the studio. What's your name? Alice. This is Alice.
Hi, Alice. How are you? We're drinking champagne. I know it's very early, but you know, we're drinking champagne.
As Churchill once said, never drink anything stronger than whiskey before breakfast.
I actually prefer drinking champagne in the morning.
Yeah, so do
I mean,
I.
it's the only thing I'll drink in the morning.
Yeah, I've had my second holiday the other day out in Lanzarote, and
Yeah, you're getting about out there.
I'm committed.
Were you been again? Have you?
Yeah. I'm
Have you got a place? Have you got a place?
No, I haven't. But we've got friends who go there a lot, and I'm kind of experimenting with what semi-retirement would look like.
Yeah, sure.
No more than that, right?
Yeah.
I'm not about to retire, but I'm sort of right. If we were to go away, 5 times a year, sort of thing. And I swear to God, I save money every time I go on holiday.
Well, you do.
Well, that's what people say. I mean, Alex Phillips.
A pint of beer, €7.
Alex Phillips, before she was sort of between jobs and between houses, and she basically went and lived in, I think it was Lanzarote or, one of the Canary Islands, for 6 months, and she rented a place for something like £300 a month.
Yeah.
And she said, I lived so much cheaper than if I'd been in London.
Yeah.
I mean, a bit of a side. When I wrote my first novel many years ago, this is shit.
That's a great line, that. When I wrote my first novel, brilliant.
The first one was such a hit.
No, the first one was published, the second one wasn't. I lived in, it was easiest to live in New Zealand. Cheaper to live in New Zealand.
You've got to have a glass of this, mate. It's Trump champagne.
Is it not actually from the flavour that is Trump? Is it?
It's from Eric Trump owns the company. Yeah. It's also really good.
It's been 12 hours, mate. Is it nice? So it's actual champagne, not some.
Well, no, it's.
Are you Chris's son?
It is uncannily like that. Did you say it is, or isn't it?
It isn't champagne, but it's traditional methods.
They can't call it champagne.
No, they can in America. They do in America. They don't give a fuck.
In California, yeah.
Yeah. So
Where's the grape from then?
This is Virginia.
Virginia.
Yeah.
All right.
So
But it's really good.
Pinot Noir Meunier, so black grapes.
Are you right into this? I remember you were just a humble property guy.
I know, back in the day, years ago.
He said he knew you. Have you guys not seen each other for a
You used to
while?
come to one of my events and used to be one of the one of the investor panel, didn't you?
All sorts of trouble, don't I?
Well, you was good. You supported me, so I appreciate
How funny, small world.
It is.
it. Do you want to try a glass of that? So I get you a...
Yeah, go on, mate. Yeah. I don't know how it goes with the Starbucks.
Is it okay? I'm just going to pour this gentleman here next to you with his Costa coffee. Some.
Have you seen the planks list, by the way?
I've seen it. Yeah.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah. Who do you want to do?
Well, why don't you tell me?
Starmer and Metro, City Metro line, whatever it is.
I mean, we
Oh, yeah.
An easy one.
That's fine. So I'll give you. All right. So let me mark that down.
Company, how we drive.
Yeah.
No, but say you've got. I just bought a place.
So I'm going to do Russell.
Yeah.
No, I'll put them in here for Mike so he can take them back.
Do you use it enough?
Russell Quirk and Starmer.
But also, I mean, it's quite good.
Is it warm? Obviously,
Mark, have you seen the planks list?
I have.
Have you chosen any?
I've got quite a good line on Shahid Putt, if you want. I've been thinking about that.
On Shahid Butt, yeah, okay, let me give you that.
I don't actually know what the Metro bus story is.
He's doing that. That's the bus.
Sacked bus driver.